All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning to homosexuals and autistic people alike. What a day, what a day, what a day. What a week. What a fucking week, bros. All right. Music pausing in 1, 2, 3. Big stop. All right. Good morning, everybody. All right, my neurodivergent homosexuals and trans people alike, let's get together and watch these men explain to us our lived experience slash let's watch them spread definite misinformation, okay? Now, before we jump into it, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Brittany Simon. We do philosophy through pop culture, and I am recently an autistically diagnosed person. You guys, when did I get diagnosed? I got diagnosed, was it November of last year? When was it? I feel like sometimes you guys know better than me. I got diagnosed. I must have been, right? November? Was it November of last year? Either way, it hasn't been a year. Was it really that? Yeah, I guess it hasn't quite been a year, but it's about to be a year. Is that true? That's kind of crazy. Yeah, I guess so. Now, people often ask me, well, why'd you get diagnosed so late in life? Did it help you? Listen, okay. Sometimes, you really don't know how to be honest with yourself until you're really in front of, well, first you have to be honest with yourself, but you're really in front of somebody you can be yourself with. Because let me tell you, as a person who was raised her whole life being told, like, you're normal, that's okay, you're weird, you stand out, you ask too many questions, you have a problem with authority, you question everything from, gender to the political state of the world, you read thousands of books, you have hyperfixations, you do all these things, but that's just normal. You have sensory issues, you can't eat bananas, you gag at the smell of them, you have problems when you watch people brush their teeth, you can't brush your teeth, so you find different ways to do it. You have ick around mint smells. You can't stand people chewing gum. Like, that's normal. You're so normal, What is it getting diagnosed help you, okay? Getting diagnosed helped me categorize my behavior in a way that allowed me to not beat myself up for all the weird ways that I function as a person. And yes, it's true that a lot of the ways that I function are only a disability because people created a social structure that doesn't allow me to show up the way that I naturally am. So I learned to mask or hide my uniqueness as a way to function. And it's true that in of itself causes like a level of dysfunction. But then separate from that, there are true biological disability related issues that come about when you're autistic. And yet here I am, a very happy and joyful individual who only has gotten better and improved her life with a diagnosis and a support system and people really seeing me for who I am, which is an individual with whatever you want to call it, an autistic brain, an autistic processing perspective. If you want to say, oh, we're all a little autistic, which is obviously not true, it's like, everyone is so particular about this topic that no doubt today's stream will also be very particular, but just know that like you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Often when we have discussions about autism, it's usually parents of autistic children speaking up. It's not, even autistic people themselves. So I'm just trying to add my voice to sort of the conversation as an autistic voice, but I'm not speaking for all autistic people because it is not a monolithic experience. And though I understand a lot of these autistic parents don't think of themselves as autistic, I would be so interested to see if all of these autistic parents have bothered to get diagnosed themselves or see themselves in their kids, because so many parents I know who ended up having an ADHD kid or an autistic kid ends up getting diagnosed themselves because they realize like, oh, that's why I do what I do. And honestly, even looking at my parents, I think to myself like, there's something there. There's something going on over there. So like, I think getting a diagnosis can free you. Now that I'm diagnosed, I've also reached out to even some of my siblings and said, hey, I think you might be autistic. Maybe want to get diagnosed. They were like, how is this going to change my life? And from the outside, I feel like it could significantly improve the way that they have been ostracized their whole life. And yet they're not interested in it because they feel like everything is fine. And I think there's like a fear over diagnosis that everything is fine. Why do I need a diagnosis? Maybe getting diagnosed would ruin your life. Or maybe it would just allow you to know yourself more. So since we do philosophy through pop culture, we're trying to know ourselves better, know why we do what we do. And so, if you want to get a diagnosis, great. If you don't, great. But remember that you wanting a diagnosis doesn't mean you get diagnosed with autism. It means you seek out medical care from a professional who's actually interested in getting to know you and then giving you a proper diagnosis, whether that diagnosis is yes, you have autism, or no, you are not autistic. Okay? So remember, like, there's not this world where it's like, I want to be autistic, I'm going to go get a diagnosis. It's not like we go and, yes, there might be corrupt doctors who will diagnose you autistic when you aren't, but like those aren't good people. And if you get a good doctor, they will actually care that you're properly diagnosed. Okay? So just think about it from that perspective. Okay? And yes, chat says an official diagnosis can be dangerous for less privileged autistic people. And yes, since autism is so misunderstood by the world, it can be a huge disadvantage to getting diagnosed. People might deny you jobs, might not think you're capable. They might not even let you immigrate to certain countries. That ultimately any time we attempt to know ourselves better and we put an illegal documentation could put a target on our back, And on this channel, we're obviously like queer, we're neurodivergent. We are sort of like, activism adjacent. We're not, I try to stand up for what I think is right. And I try not to encourage you to put your life at risk ever, of course. But also, since I am in a position of privilege, though not as privileged as some, like I don't have like and I'm not sitting on like a mountain of wealth or something. So like I live paycheck to paycheck like everyone else, but I'm hoping that by speaking up in my position of privilege as a YouTuber, I'm sort of giving voice to people who can't, because there are so many disadvantages to having that diagnosis. Now, I think this is what's hard for people is that I think the diagnosis process should be a shared consensus of a desire for knowledge and knowing instead of something to be afraid of. Like, I don't think you should be afraid to be diagnosed, but first we have to then create a society that doesn't punish you for getting diagnosed. And this is what's the issue is like the Trump administration, the way they're handling it, they're kind of like phrasing it as like, you should be afraid. And like, this is different than you as an individual parent worried that your kid's going to have a hard life. That fear is a different fear than the fear that the administration is trying to ignite in people. They're using this fear to control you to move in a direction. That's a different kind of fear. So I need you to also, when we have these conversations, separate your individual fear of what this means for your life as a struggle from a struggle perspective. Like getting a diagnosis can be hard. Like I have fibromyalgia. And just this morning, I swear to God, I picked up my coffee mug and it felt like my whole hand was broken. And I was like, and I just sat there thinking like, but this diagnosis was so helpful. And yet I don't want you to be afraid that someone has a diagnosis or I have BPD. I don't want people to be afraid because I have BPD. Oh, this scary girl with borderline personality disorder. Like, no, we're not adding to the stigma. And I think what this administration does is it just adds to the stigma that being autistic makes you less than. And not to mention that the same administration that praised this autistic guy named Elon Musk is all this as a genius is all of a sudden turning around and saying we have to save our kids from autism. Okay, so just like keep that all in mind. Yeah, I think there's just this administration, we're in the bad times and it's going to be really rough and we're not unique or special. Our ancestors have certainly gone through it. So I just want to remind you to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and remember that this is normal. We're in a cycle. This is exactly what's happened before. And it will happen again, but we'll also be in the good times again, and there will be a cycle. And that people all over the globe are suffering or not suffering. And right now, we're just like at a certain level of suffering we're not used to. But, it certainly isn't unique. Suffering is a universal human experience. Everybody suffers. We just want to make sure we're suffering wisely through this next 5 to 7 to 10 years. Okay? Let's see. With that said, do you guys have any comments or questions before we really get started? What we're going to do is we're going to watch the speech. which is an hour, and I'm so sorry about that. Then we're going to go into some other people on the internet who had some commentary, just like little stories here and there. And then we're going to wrap up for the day, take a deep breather, and come back tomorrow. Okay, any questions before we get started? Let me pull up the video while you guys are deciding if you want to talk about anything. We're going to watch the Associated Press. This happened yesterday. What a day, what a day. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. This is what happened yesterday.
So I've been waiting for this meeting for 20 years, actually.
20 years. Bro, what is he even on about? 30 seconds in.
And it's not that everything's 100% understood or known, but I think we've made a lot of strides. Wish it was done a long time ago. Today, we're delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible.
Autism. Oh, he says it like an autistic person. Autism. My autistic friend pointed that out. She goes, you say autism, like autism. Like he says it similarly. It's very autistic.
Crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office. Is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York.
Brother.
I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And he and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner, Dr. Marty Makary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and...
Chet said, why is Dr. Oz there? He's on the team, bro. He put him on the team. Dr. Oz has been a part of the team forever.
Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink. So thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, very much. The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history.
That's why his team is a joke. His team is all just celebrities. His whole team is celebrities. All three of these people are basically celebrities. That's what's so funny about like the Trump administration. It's just literally all these conservatives who are like, we hate Hollywood. It's so liberal. What is this? What is this team of stooges, bro? Anyways, no, seriously though, lock in. This is serious. And it's going to impact a lot of communities. And you must, pay attention. Because this isn't a joke. He is claiming something that most doctors are absolutely not on board with. He's making a huge claim today. A claim that is not helpful to our communities. Not helpful to us or our kids or anybody else. This is not what it looks like to live your life off good data. This is why I say, please make sure you come to a consensus with good data because it will turn you into this. So be very careful what you decide you know and what you decide you believe. It's one thing to say, hey, I believe this is true, but I'm not sure. Another thing to say, we know this is true. Do we know this is true?
It's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California where they have for some reason, a more severe problem.
Is he insinuating in California there's more autistic people? I wonder why that is. I don't know why they're so against the reality that like liberal people just tend to go to therapists and doctors more, so they tend to get diagnosed more. Like, how is this that insane to think that there'd be more cases in a liberal state?
But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys, 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them, this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism.
You know, Chet says common sense. Girl, there is just this, it's hard. You know, a part of me wants to just make jokes and a part of me wants to reassure you at the same time. I want you to be reassured that there is no disadvantage to getting to know yourself more. In a real way, you owe it to yourself. And then I also want to say, in many ways, you owe it to yourself to also crack a few jokes. Okay? Because this is ridiculous. Like, this is just a ridiculous situation that we're in. You know, there's a joke in my community, because my community was a big part of why I got diagnosed ultimately. In autism bubbles, they say, if other autistic people think you're autistic, you know, what do they say? That's like peer review. Basically, you're autistic, you know, and my community and my friends in real life who are offline, who are like, Britt, you might be autistic. I was like, no, me? Do I look autistic? Spoiler, I do. Spoiler, when I leave the house and I live in Europe, I live in Croatia, my partner is always like, yeah, you look so autistic compared to other people. I look autistic. There's like, not that there's a look, not that you can tell people have autism. Though I would argue that people, and this is why I think I've stood out my whole life, I think because I am autistic, I don't follow social norms the same way as other people. I don't desire to. I don't think about it. And so in some ways, I signal with my physicality that I'm not interested in playing the script, even though I do love scripts. So it's not to say that you can look at someone and diagnose them. It's to say that I naturally, just my whole life, just didn't want to follow a script. Like, I'd see other people and be like, okay, that's nice, but I want to do this thing. But I wasn't also alone. There were other kids like me. There are other adults like me. My friends are so much like me. When I look at my community and we post photos, I'm like, that's the autism right there. Because like, there's a look to us, but that's not to say you can look at someone and diagnose them. These are two different things, right? And I want to be careful that we're not looking at people and diagnosing them, right? But there's something to be said, just like you can look at somebody who's goth and know they're goth because of the way they're dressed, because it's signaling, we're signaling, or you can look at a guy and be like, he probably watches Andrew Tate. That's what I mean, right? There's like a look, right? Same with gay people. It's like, I think you might be one of us. I think you might be one of us. And the joke on my Discord is there's a new diagnosis every week. Like, somebody in my community is always getting diagnosed. And it's because honestly, there's like an encouragement. Hey, go see if you're diagnosed, like go get diagnosed. If you grew up conservative like I did, we were not getting diagnosed. That's why less people were diagnosed. My family would see all of my habits and just say, that's Brittany. That's who she is. She's argumentative and she's like a big reader. She's very like, this is just who she is, right? And I would sit there and I would say, like, I was obviously weird. Like, I was obviously a weird kid. And the fact that I struggled in school gave no one a red flag because, one, I was a girl, and two, I just, people have always told me this my whole life. You're so smart and capable, so we're going to write you off as somebody who needs help, even though I obviously need help like everybody else. And then there's a part of you that eats that shit up because you're like, yeah, I don't need help. I'm awesome. But that just plays into, you know, internalized misogyny about women being less than, and I'm going to be more like a boy. But yet boys are getting diagnosed with autism more than girls because girls are, quote, capable and don't need the help, but boys do. So boys are better than us, but they need the help, so they're getting diagnosed. But girls aren't getting diagnosed because they don't need help, but they're not as good as the boys. It's all very confusing. And so we need to deconstruct not only the gender perspective on this, but we need to deconstruct the stigma of getting diagnosed in the first place. You know?
That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually I hear no. I heard none. See, Bobby.
So the Amish, they're saying there's a study that's done that there's not autism in places with no vaccines and stuff, like the Amish. Like the Amish don't have autistic people. Y'all build shit with no technology from your hands. Have you seen the way you look? That's not autism. Have you seen? I've been through Amish country. Amish, I think you mean to pronounce it autistic. You know what? Call me Seinfeld. You like my little joke there? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about?
Wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups, the Amish as an example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay?
To be fair, I would also struggle to say it out loud, but I think he probably should have practiced before he came on to tell me that this is the reason I'm autistic.
Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol. During pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good.
Okay, so fun fact, Tylenol is the name of a company, but if it's in your vocabulary enough, like Google it, Tylenol, I think Tylenol can be sued. If the word morphs outside of a brand, it becomes a part of our vernacular, vocabulary, whatever. And so I think about that, like, can we sue Tylenol? Can Tylenol sue the Trump administration for talking bad about its brand? Or no, because now we assume Tylenol, the brand, is i.e. the drug. Like, you can take off-brand Tylenol. It's just we now say Tylenol for stuff that isn't Tylenol. The brand. Like, Band-Aid is a brand. Google is a brand. But when we say, like, oh, you should Google it, we don't mean literally you have to use Google. So then I question, can they sue? You know, yeah, like Zipper or Q-tips, yeah, or Jello, yeah, Kleenex. Damn, you guys are, you know what's up. So yeah, I'm curious about that. That's what I'd like to know, right? Chet says, Britt, my therapist brought out the possibility of me having autism or ADHD too. It's weird because I've never seriously considered it until I found your channel. Listen, at the end of the day, I think one of the greatest things about being a person is that we so naturally gravitate towards people who see us and understand us. And it's just more likely that you're going to gravitate towards people who are like you neurodivergently or neurotypically. And it makes sense that when I look at my friend group, when I look at my whole life, it was so obvious to me that neurotypicals never really, flocked to me. Not that I didn't have neurotypical friends or don't have neurotypical friends, but it's so obvious to me that most of my friends were artists, anime freaks, cosplayers, they liked, like really niche movies or niche topics or debate bros or politics. Like, it just makes sense looking back at my whole life that I was never friends with cheerleaders and jocks. Even though those girlies came to me for advice, they never wanted to be my friend, right? Which is such an autistic experience as a woman, like people coming to you for advice, but like, which is so fine, right? Like I said, I have really stable, good friendships my whole life, but I never as I get older, right? And there is a pattern that autistic people, as they age, do become more disabled. And I noticed that in myself, where I just started becoming more in need. Like my executive dysfunction was failing, and I didn't know if it was the COVID, so the brain fog, or the long COVID, or if it was the fibromyalgia. And so now I can kind of figure that out, or even my sensory issues, And that's why I think when I look at my life and I think about it, like, no wonder I got the diagnosis. I didn't just get the diagnosis because my audience was encouraging it. I got the diagnosis because there was something going on. I'm a very, me, I'm a very, focused person. And so when I noticed that I was declining in some aspects, I was like, oh, what's that? And now that I know, I'm able to counteract that decline, which is really good. That's why a diagnosis was really helpful for me. I was able to see in which ways I was like not having the spoons or the energy. And now I have a name for it, which is like really exciting, right? Chet says, Britt, what do you think about people getting diagnosed under this administration? Great question. I think you have to weigh the pros and cons for everything you do in your life, including standing up for what's right. When you have an administration this fascistic, you have to really pay attention to what you're willing to do. Like, where's your line in the sand? And it's okay to change it. It doesn't have to be permanent, right? Chad said, what kind of decline as they age? Cognitive? More like less spoons to mask. So it's not that you have a cognitive decline, like mentally. It's that you have less energy to mask. Because I spent all of my life masking what I didn't even know I was masking. Like, I go back and look at my life and I'm like, oh my God. Like, all these situations that I think about, even now, I'm like, what? So you just I got more tired of masking. You know, I just got so exhausted, you know. So it's not that it's not that I'm like less intelligent or something. It's not that kind of decline. It's not, you know, it's a decline of energy to hold masking. And oh my God, yeah. So different now. So different in my life. Yeah. I hope that answered your question, but yeah, I don't mean to imply anything else. It's just masking. And I think people take for granted what masking is because neurotypicals will tell autistic people just act normal. Just act normal. How exhausting is that, huh? Fuck. What does that mean? Normal for who? Who's normal? You know?
All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small...
What did he just say?
Necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be...
So, okay, he's basically saying that women who are pregnant or people that are pregnant who take Tylenol are basically making the frogs gay. No, wait, that's not it. That they're making the kids gay. No, that's not what. That they're making the kids autistic. I got it. I finally got it. Okay, got it. I'm clocking in. So, got it. Okay. So, if you are pregnant and you're in so much pain, even high fever, if you have to take a Tylenol, fine. But you are risking your kids coming out gay. I mean, autistic, you know? So just keep that in mind.
Something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the...
Now, just so you know, no doctor, no reasonable doctor is saying this is good. Okay, this is very bad science as far as we know. This is not true. Everyone is doing their work to get their messages out there as quick as possible. This is not true. You can take Tylenol. It is safe. Talk to your doctor. Talk to your personal physician. Okay. Talk to your medical professionals. And also, yes, chat, this is absolutely another way they're just being a fucking misogynist. Oh, so now they're going to blame women. Just like, what else do they blame women for? Wait, what was the thing they used to... Being gay, wasn't it? Didn't they blame women for their sons being gay because they loved them too much or something? Like, they're always blaming people who have babies, bro. They're always just like, your fault, it's everything. Oh, and fun fact, I read that ADHD is mostly caused from the man's sperm and is heightened by his prevalence of smoking in his life. So it's like, everyone is out here talking about women do this and women do this and that, you know, what about your sperm, bro? What about the dudes? And also, let me just tell you, as a person who's pretty sure both her parents are autistic and or at least her dad is. Okay, let me just put that out there. Crazy. Just absolutely insane, okay?
And you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot.
I'm terrified that kids with fevers aren't going to get the baby Tylenol they need. And as a nanny who's administered lots of baby Tylenol to her babies, of course, with their parents' consent, right? This is scary. Okay, I've been thinking about this and I know I'm not the first one to say it, so I'm just going to say it. That we really are, this administration is trying to reinvent the wheel. We already know vaccines work. We don't have to redo that. We already know Tylenol works. I don't know what you're doing. We already knew these things work. Remember when our kids were dying? Remember when people were dying? And then we brought in this great thing. And now they're like, but did that work though? It's like they're going to make us redo everything just to realize once again, like, yeah, that worked, bro. That thing that has been working, it worked. And now they're trying to reinvent the wheel, but like it's just going to be the same old wheel. So it feels so stupid that we're doing this, but that's why this feels crazy. It's why we feel like everything is like crazy town. Because why are we doing something that we already knows, like we already know this works, why are we trying to redo it? And to be honest with you, I don't know why. To be honest with you, I can't decide if conspiracy theorists just found their way into the White House and this is the result. But it feels so silly because I guarantee you these motherfuckers be popping Tylenol. I bet you when Trump has a fever, he's eating that Tylenol for breakfast. Ain't no way, bro. Oh, because he's not the one carrying the child, it doesn't matter? Make it make sense. It's always about the women. What about the men? What about the quality of your sperm? What about everything else? I don't know. It's like, it's weird growing up in a family that got me vaccinated my whole life. And then all of a sudden the COVID vax came out. They're like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? What do you mean? What does that even mean no? Like, I can't believe my whole family's been vaxxed our whole life. Something about COVID, something about this administration, something about the changing of times just really shifted everyone's perspective. It's so weird. Like, I just don't get it. There's almost like this thing that happened, right? I feel like this crazy thing happened where like we were going along the timeline and it was making sense, you know, and all of us were there. Like we were all going across the time. Actually, I guess we're all going across the timeline. Like it's all making sense. And then something happened where there was like this wall and we hit this wall and, you know, some of us were like, okay, we're going to keep going. And then some people were like, you know, I'm just going to turn around. And I'm like, what are you turning around for? What are you turning around for? No, you got to go ahead. You got to go forward. And they're like, nah, I'm going to turn around. And I'm like, do not turn this car around. And they're like, we're turning the car around. And I just don't know how that's the answer. You know? Chet said, were your parents always super against gay and trans people or has it gotten worse? They've always been anti-gay and anti-trans, but it has gotten worse. Now they're calling it the worst ideology ever. Now they're calling it like worse than any other crime you can commit is like being gay and trans because you're trying to quote normalize it. They've always been it, but it's gotten way, way worse. Like it has absolutely gotten way worse for sure.
You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women.
Wow, you shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. People's kids are going to die. Just like they did with that. Remember that family who didn't get their kids vaxxed and they had, was it the measles or was it chickenpox? And one of the kids died. And they said, oh, it could have been worse. But like one of their kids died for something that was preventable. Preventable, people. How devastating is that?
Should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication.
No, they should talk to their doctors about what they should do. Not about limiting this, like limiting the medication, but what they should do.
While pregnant. So ideally you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it.
Sad.
The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date. But I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years. And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. And on the vaccines, it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff.
He's talking about my conservative family went through this when we had the babies. So my brother has a few babies, and they had most of the 2 first babies in the hospital and the other babies at home, which I'm okay with home births as long as you also go to the doctors and get your kids vaccinated and stuff. My brother has considered not vaccinating his kids with everything needed. But it was a weird experience being in the hospital and the baby just gets poked with all of these things. But obviously it looks weird because you don't know what's going on. But it makes a lot of sense when they explain it to you, right? And that's what people have to understand is like everything will look crazy if you don't know what's going on. But if you know what's going on, it will make sense to you. And that's the dilemma with a lack of education is that you are accidentally scary. No, on purpose. It's like you're on purpose freaking yourself out. Like you were on purpose scaring yourself. Just that's why, you guys, that's why they say read a book. What it's meant to indicate is to say, know the information so you can be less afraid. And I say this to everybody. I say this to people who didn't grow up religious. I say this to people who live in different bubbles. All of us should get to know each other more so we're less afraid. Remember that the fear that they rely on to stoke your bigotry, to stoke our prejudice, is based off of us not knowing better. That's how they get us to hate people for just the way they're born, because we don't know better. Okay, so you have to read up on it. You gotta understand how things work so you can be less hateful and less bigoted, you know?
You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles.
I feel, based on what he feels, feelings over facts, his feels.
And the 3 should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better. So let it be separate. Is
there an actual doctor who's going to talk at some point?
Chickenpox is already...
Who's not Dr. Oz?
Separate. Because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it 4 for a while, it really was bad. So they make chickenpox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B.
This is like when my mother was given the chance to give me the HPV vaccination when I was in middle school. And she said she doesn't need it. She's going to have sex before marriage. And then I got HPV as an adult. This is what it reminds me of. It's called preventative care. It's called you don't know if your kid's going to be assaulted. It's called you don't know what situation your kid's going to be in. It's called so many things. It's called preventative care. Y'all don't understand preventative care.
And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. The FDA will be updating the label of an existing drug to reflect potential benefits in reducing some autism.
Autism. He says autism like an autist. Autism. It's kind of funny. And FYI, the HPV vaccination would have been like, that's what it can connect to cervical cancer. Like the preventative measure is so necessary. If you guys can get vaccinated. I got vaccinated as an adult. We'll see what that does. You know what I mean? Chad says my sister got hepatitis B when she was 2 or 3 years old. It's not sexually transmitted. This is BS. Well, not only is it not sexually transmitted, right? And by the way, I hope I didn't mistake anything. HPV and hepatitis B, they're different things. I hope I wasn't confusing everybody. Did he say that, or are you guys mixing up what I said? I just want to make sure I'm not confusing anybody. I just meant to share a story that was similar to what he was saying about preventative care. But even Hep B as an adult, can you because I get tested. When I get tested for everything. Because Hep B came into question when you do like stunts or BDSM, or you do sort of stuff where that could be a problem. You know what I mean? Okay, he said it. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I missed it or something, or if I misspoke and I confused everybody. But you should get Hep B. You should want to do preventative care because you don't know what circumstance you'll find yourself as a person. And that's what people have to understand, right? Like you just need to be in a position where your kid, regardless of what situation you could not even fathom they would be in, if they're ever in it, they're protected. That's how you want to think about it, right?
Symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. I mean, this was mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected. but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better, and in some cases maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly for. I have so many friends with autistic children. It's a tough situation.
Disability can be a tough situation. Neurodivergency can be a difficult situation, as can existing in life, period. And I do not want parents who have, because I'm in, there is this conversation about the levels of autism, your relationship with autism, your disability levels, how does the spectrum work? It's not like more autism, less autism. That's not the spectrum. It's more like, and some people would argue that you're not actually like a certain level of autism, but rather certain days you're like a level of autism. There's like a lot of questions about autism and how it works. But I would just say that my heart is always with people who struggle, period. And we all want to suffer wiser. And so we need to create a society that supports these parents and supports our community members. And no matter your situation, gives people an opportunity to make your life better, regardless of your situation. I don't like the narrative that like, oh, it's so sad your kid's autistic. It's more or less an acknowledgement that certain relationships with some circumstances can be tougher than others, regardless if it's autism or not. I don't like the pointing at autism here. You know what I mean? So instead we should be talking about, how to meet people where they are, right? Chet said, lower support needs and higher support needs. Is that outdated? No, we still say lower support needs and higher support needs, right? But I got diagnosed with levels of autism, right? So like level 1, 2, and 3, but it's higher support needs, lower support needs, I think is better. But also I think some days you have more support needs than others. I think regardless of your experience with autism, some days are harder than other days. And so that's really what we want to pay attention to, is that like when you're having a hard day, we want resources, that's what we're focusing on, right? Chad says, not to sound stupid, what kind of autism is he speaking about today? Is he talking about those needing caregivers? Most likely he's talking about autism in general, which is the problem. But also I don't like this narrative. It's like people don't understand Down syndrome. Like, do you know some people with Down syndrome will need a caretaker? Some people with Down syndrome have jobs, live in their own apartments, and have roommates and are chilling. It's like, it's not a monolithic experience. And also the arbiter of you being a fully formed person is not necessarily having a job and living on your own, though that can be an indicator, right? It's like, it depends on the situation. It's like, we're not having a monolithic experience. And so we're not having a real conversation about what's happening. And so a lot of people will suffer because we're not having a clear conversation about what we're talking about and what we're aiming for, right? And then obviously personal values come into play, what people think about even having babies in the first place, let alone a baby that's disabled in some capacity, and or your relationship with the word disabled. Like, so many layers to this conversation are also cultural, right? And we have to understand America is such a special, unique case because she is so specifically stupid and violent and lacking knowledge that she as a country is just struggling so immensely to actually come to good conclusions for people, right? So we are struggling deeply as a country, okay? And we see this with research they've done around schizophrenia, how our schizophrenics have a worse time of it than schizophrenics around the world. That the violence impacts our relationship with our mental health, right? So we have to talk about that. We have to talk about how America is so uniquely struggling. It is very unique to America. And these people will say, oh, it's our food, it's our food. It's also the culture, right? And I'm not to say that America shouldn't regulate some of its food intake. Absolutely. Like, I live in Croatia, I can't get hot Cheetos here as an example. There are things in Europe that I can't get because I don't live in America, right? Yeah, we need to regulate our food, but we need to regulate our food separate from this fear over autism. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you could have had such a good, like RFK Jr. could have had such a good impact on Americans, but instead this is what he's spending his time doing. And it's like, can you please just like help us with our food and like, you know, why are there cancer labels on our food and like maybe stuff like that? But instead you're worried about this. And then your conclusion is bad. What is this supposed to do for us? You know? Chet says, that's true. I get it. My uncle has autism. I don't know why you put it in quotations, but he's nonverbal. Then there's others who are on top of the fields. Yeah, autism is like neurodivergency. Everyone has a different, guys, you could be neurotypical and be all the worst things that people imagine autistic people are. It's not about the autism or neurodivergency. It could be, but it's not always about. And the fact that they're targeting autistic people instead of just understanding why people do what they do is the dilemma. The autism isn't always why, but it can be. You're neurotypical. What's your excuse? What's your explanation? Right? So it's dangerous the way we're talking about this because we're not actually thinking about why people do what they do. We're just assuming it's because of that's why stigma against a diagnosis is so dangerous. Because you're not actually getting to the root of the why, right? Chet says, I put autism in quotes because his diagnosis is different now. It's something else. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Chet says, I speculate that the next version of the DSM, there's going to be a lot change about ASD definitions. Well, they're already changing so much because it's a construct. A lot of these diagnoses are a construct. And so we have to remember that. That's why people are confused because they want it to be black and white. It's not like I took a blood test to figure out if I was autistic. Like, do they understand how autism is even diagnosed? Guys, I didn't take a blood test to get diagnosed with BPD. Nothing, our mental illnesses are not blood tested. So like, again, like what do they think is happening when we're getting diagnosed? It's a construct. It's a construct. I'm really annoyed that people don't know that. I'm really annoyed that people think, you know what I mean? That like, oh, there's some objective, like it's not, we're figuring it out, you know? Chet said, forgive my ignorance. My brother's diagnosed with Asperger's. So that's still a thing. We don't call it Asperger's anymore. It's called level 1 autism. I'm diagnosed level 1 autistic. That's all that Asperger's is. It's just the name Asperger's was a Nazi and a Nazi who experimented on autistic people. So we don't want to give him any more fucking credit for his bullshit. So we call it level 1 autistic. We don't use the word Asperger's anymore. Or just renamed it away from the Nazi so he doesn't get any credit. Okay. Man. Pisses me off. Okay, let's go back.
Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism Data Science Initiatives. And to be honest with you, to me, that's the least important. It's not even a money thing at this point. There's so much money, but they have to do, and they have to move quickly. When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Uh-oh.
But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it.
Great job, Mr. President. Jesus, what a weird advice.
And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you...
This is so irresponsible. People are going to die. People are literally going to die. Their kids are going to die. If parents do not give Tylenol to their kids to help bring down the fever, and they refuse to take them to the hospital because the hospital is so expensive, people are going to die. Oh, this is so sad. This is devastating.
You take instead, it's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely proven bad. I mean, they've been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven.
I do not believe for a second they're not giving their kids Tylenol. I don't believe it for a second that people in their lives are not taking Tylenol. There's no way.
Bad. So I'd like to ask Bobby to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. McCary, Dr. Oz, Dr. Fink, followed by two incredible mothers that have experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol. And they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one.
So they don't have money for Tylenol, but they have money to diagnose autism? What?
And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. And I want to say it right now. And you know the way I look at it? Don't take it. don't take it.
Oh, my God.
There's no downside in not taking it. So I'd like to ask
There's no downside. Death. What do you mean there's no downside to not taking Tylenol? You could die if you don't bring down a fever. I'm so confused.
Bobby to come up and say a few words. I hope I didn't ruin his day, but that's the way I feel. I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common sense too.
Oh, brother, life is common sense. We just covered this yesterday. We literally just covered this yesterday with Asmongold. When people say common sense, bro, they're really telling you they don't know nothing.
There's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up, and this group has worked so hard on it. But I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. To meet the President's challenge, I ordered HHS to launch an unprecedented all-agency effort to identify all causes of autism, including toxic and pharmaceutical exposures. At President Trump's urging, NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS are turning over every stone to identify the etiology of the autism epidemic and how patients and parents can prevent and reverse this alarming trend. We have broken down the traditional silos that have long separated these agencies, and we have fast-tracked research and guidance. Historically, NIH has focused almost solely on politically safe and entirely fruitless research about.
Guys, just to remember, you're being ableist if you make fun of the way he talks, because it actually is not his fault. And just a reminder that you hate the way he talks because you hate what he's saying. But to say you hate the way he talks is ableist belief, because it's not his fault. Okay? I know it's tempting. I know you want to make fun of how he talks. But just a reminder, okay?
The genetic drivers of autism. And that would be like studying the genetic drivers of lung cancer without looking at cigarettes. And that's what NIH has been doing for 20 years. As a result, we don't have an answer to this critical question, despite the cataclysmic impact of the epidemic on our nation's children. We are now replacing the institutional culture of politicized science and corruption with evidence-based medicine. NIH research teams are currently testing multiple hypotheses with no area off limits. We promise transparency as we uncover the potential causes and treatments, and we will notify the public regularly of our progress. Today, we are announcing two important findings from our autism work that are vital for parents to know as they make these decisions. First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential.
Now, okay, let me just say something. I asked my partner the other day, I was like, why don't you guys have medicine cabinets? What's up with that? And he goes, well, first of all, why would we need medicine cabinets? And I was like, for your medicine. And he's like, yeah, we're not America. Our life is in pills. And I was like, okay, you know what, sassy McSassy. And it's kind of true that people here in Croatia do seem shocked that I'm like getting ibuprofen in a pack of 500 from Costco. They're like, holy shit. You know what I mean? He's like, what do you need all those pills for? And yeah, like we have a cabinet in the house that we put all the medication in. But it is true that America is sort of like pill obsessed, but also, and I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know how to tell you guys this. It's because we're overworked and tired. We have to take painkillers to get through our shifts because we don't have proper medical care. Like, I don't know if people understand this. We are dependent on medication because America is overworked and underslept. We are not getting the medical care we need. We do not have universal health care. We would not need to be dependent on medication if we were actually going on his. So I was talking to his parents, my in-laws, and I was like, oh, are you on vacation again? My mother-in-law. And she goes, yeah, every 6 months. And I was like, and I looked at her and my partner was like, oh, wow, America sucks. And I was like, you get a vacation every 6 months? They're like, yeah. And I was like, she gets a vacation every 6 months from her job. America could never. Could you imagine if you worked a job and they gave you a vacay every 6 months so you're not overworked and you can come back? Yeah, and paid vacation. It's a paid vacation. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's crazy. And that's what I want you to understand about the world versus America. America makes you feel bad for going on vacation. And when you go on vacation, not only is it usually not paid, but you spend 5 to 10K if you're rich to actually go somewhere like Disneyland. Or if you're poor, to stay home and just live your life like normal and maybe sleep if you're lucky. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I want people to understand. Is like, America, you guys want to help America? This administration is tackling every problem we have in the worst way possible. Because they don't actually want you to stop working. They want to work you into death. They want to work you into the ground. And they want to work you into the ground and you still can't afford a house. This is the dilemma with America. That's the problem. And I'm so sad for us. I'm so angry for us that under capitalism and having this relationship with, America in particular, it will kill us, right? It will kill us, And that's just so sad because we could have been so good to each other. We're rich. We have enough people. We could all put a little bit of money into a pot and really help each other. We could have done universal health care so well. We could have really helped each other,
Association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. FDA also recognized that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancy, as other alternatives have well-documented adverse effects. HHS wants, therefore, to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment in the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration.
Hold on, chat. Chat says, just a reminder, RFK was a heroin addict, has no medical degree, and has worms in his head. Just a reminder, there's nothing wrong with being an addict. I'm so sorry you suffered that way. And plenty of people are amazing participants in society who happen to be addicts. Okay. Second of all, has no medical degree. That's what's important here. Pay attention to that. And had worms in his head. Girl, we could all get worms in our head. So you better be empathetic because that sounds scary. He got worms in his head for kind of a funny reason, but like, that's not the point. Okay. Be very careful on how you insult people because this adds to their rhetoric that autistic people don't deserve to live. If RFK Jr. doesn't deserve to live, then why should autistic people? That's their thinking. So remember that you humanize people because the dehumanizing language isn't necessary. Okay? But yes, him not having a medical degree is not very helpful. It would also be helpful with people with medical degrees to actually care about helping their patients. Okay? I think that's really important because Dr. Oz is a physician, but he's still not helping because he has bad information. So I just want to make sure that we focus on, especially in my community, paying attention to fixing our rhetoric. There's nothing wrong. Same with Trump. Even Trump being a felon, guys, felons should have the right to vote and participate in society since they pay taxes. The difference is that Trump didn't actually go to jail or pay back to society what he did wrong. That's the issue with Trump being a felon. Not that he is a felon, well, maybe what he did, but the fact that he didn't pay back to society what he needed to do. He didn't help out the community. He got away with it. Okay? If you go to prison and you are a felon, you have a potential to rehabilitate. You have a right to participate in society, to vote and to pay taxes and to be a part of the world, right? So we have to remember that if we're progressive and our rhetoric wants to see the world be a better place, then we have to make sure that when we are insulting people, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. I'm not saying I'm perfect yet, and I will never be perfect, but I'm trying my best to, in the next few years, get away from this need to like poke fun at people in the same way that it wouldn't make sense for them to poke back at me. Because realistically, like, we're struggling. The world is a suffering, struggling place and all of us have problems. And it'd be best if we all band together to help each other and make the world a better place. Okay? So RFK Jr., in my opinion, with all of his potential, really could have made America this really great and healthy place. But he's doing everything in his power to do the exact opposite. And that is so devastating to see. Same with Trump, who claims he wants freedom, but he's obviously not doing that. Same with conservatives, who claim they want freedom of speech and the ability to just give an opinion. But God forbid I give an opinion about Kirk you don't like, right? Again, I want you to live by your words. I want you to actually practice what you preach, right?
Duration and only when treatment is required. Furthermore, thanks to the politicization of science, The safety of acetaminophen against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in young children has never been validated. Prudent medicine, therefore, suggests caution in acetaminophen use by young children, especially since strong evidence also has associated it with liver toxicity. Some studies have also found the use of acetaminophen in children can potentially prolong viral illnesses. FDA will drive new research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. In addition to a possible acetaminophen connection to autism for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, our research has revealed that folate deficiency.
I wonder what the guys are thinking next to him. What do you think Trump and Dr. Oz are thinking with their, like, they're just sitting there? I wonder, like, are they thinking about what they're going to have for lunch? Because that would probably be what I was thinking about. Chad says, okay, but snarkiness totally helps me feel better. It's my cope. Guys, be snarky. As a public figure, I have to hold myself to a better, higher standard. In private, we might, like, you know what I mean? I might even crack a few jokes. But again, we're setting a standard for the community. But I agree, like, being snarky feels better. Making a joke feels better. I'm not going to take that away from you. I need a joke or two myself. I've already made a few already, you know? Chess says, Bray, do you think RFK Jr. believes what he is saying, or is he grifting like Trump? I don't know. I don't know enough about him. I don't really understand him. I don't know, but I know this about the Kennedys. They are not to be trusted. The way America ate up the Kennedys, well, kind of, but the way they love them, I don't know why you love them so much when they lobotomize their aunt, who was probably autistic, P the fuck S. Oh, P the fuck S, probably an autistic queen. We went into her research. She was giving autism, and they lobotomized her. Lobotomized her. Lobotomized her. So yeah, no wonder RFK Jr. has this whole thing against autism, because he doesn't want to take accountability for the way that his family lobotomized this woman. Disgusting.
In a child's brain can lead to autism. We have also identified an exciting therapy that may benefit large numbers of children who suffer from autism. Peer-reviewed literature has documented that up to 60% of folate-deficient children with ASD can have improved verbal communications if given leucovorin. I have instructed NIH, FDA, and CMS to help doctors treat children appropriately. Jay will help tell that story, which started with sound science, the kind that restores faith in government.
And by the way, they partially lobotomized her because she was too good with the men's. She was vibrant and excitable and had hobbies and romantic partners, and they didn't like that Rosemary was getting hers. They didn't like that she was enjoying herself as a woman. They didn't like that she was single. They didn't like that she was different. So they lobotomized her. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, God forbid a woman. Exactly. God forbid a woman has hobbies and a life and exists. God forbid a woman. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. That's why I say the misogyny of this is so clear to me. Them blaming pregnant people who happen to generally be women, in their mind always women. This is misogyny.
This announcement also represents a historic collaboration between NIH, FDA, CDC.
Wait, Chad says, did someone at Tylenol piss off the president? Bro, tell me that this isn't ultimately connected to Trump being mad at somebody at the Tylenol company, and this is his way of getting back at them, or RFK Jr. Somebody at that Tylenol company pissed these men off, and they were like, I got it. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to blame you for autism. What are you doing, sir?
And CMS. We expect this to be the first of many announcements over the coming years that deliver actionable information to parents on underlying cause of autism and the potential paths for prevention and reversal. Finally, autism is a complex disorder with multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalize them.
Ooh, he used the word gaslighting. Listen, I don't want you. Listen, okay, I'm going to say this. Sometimes, and I've had this happen to me, when something goes wrong in our life, before we know what's really wrong, we blame it on the thing that feels obvious. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We watched Australia SBS, which is their public TV. We watched them talk about the vaccination. Some people who had a bad reaction to the COVID vaccination, right, were lumped in with conspiracy theorists. And that really sucks, right? I had the vaccination. I was fine. COVID really fucked me up. The vaccination made me feel more reassured, okay? And I got COVID before the vaccination, for the record. So that was a mistake. Paperwork, getting out of the house. Trust me, I've had to go to the gyno for so long. I just really struggle getting out of my house. Let me tell you, it's the autism. Okay. No, it's not like it's difficult. So, I understand that in life, we want to blame the thing we think is obvious, but it's not that way. The same way that people tell you you're gay because of the liberal media, or you watched Will and Grace, or you saw two girls kiss one time. Like, that's not why people are gay, guys. Okay. Even in the world with trans people, which obviously gender is a construct, you're allowed to have a gender experience. You're allowed to be like, hey, I thought I was trans, but I'm not. Okay, cool. In the same way you're allowed to think, hey, I'm Muslim, but I'm not. Okay. Or, hey, I think I'm this, I'm not. Okay. Like, you're allowed to live a life that you discover who you are by trying. And I think sometimes there's this worldview that says I know who I am and I don't ever have to test it because I just am born this way. Obviously, we're biological creatures evolved over millions of years. We don't even know what we're capable of yet. We don't even know the limits of our own reality. And so the fact that we're already deciding about those limits is interesting when we don't even know. So again, I want to live in a world where everything is possible and it's individually based. You know how Jordan Peterson goes on this rant about how girls are often non-binary, gender fluid, or they'll say autistic people tend to be trans and therefore it's the autism. Yeah, maybe, but is that such a bad thing? The older I get, the more attached or the less attached to my gender I feel. For sure. The more I age, the less I feel like a woman. But do I feel less like a woman because conservatives keep telling me a woman is these things and I'm not really those things, so therefore I'm not a woman? Or is it because my internal compass of my gender in relation to it doesn't matter now that I've deconstructed? Is it because gender was never really a thing that mattered as long as you have a good relationship with it, with it, and maybe it's specific to how it matters? What if society didn't rely on gender to know what to do, how to talk to people, how to open doors or not open doors, what to do on a first date? What if we took all of those things away, right? I think sometimes people just want to believe that you're born and but I think knowing yourself is a life of discovery, and I think that that's the part people are missing. Maybe it's autism, maybe it's you, maybe it's the world, maybe it's nothing. I mean, God knows if you were raised in a world never learning about Jesus Christ, you probably would never learn about Jesus Christ. That's why people die every day not knowing Jesus Christ, and it doesn't matter. So you living in a reality where you're you'll know the truth is written on your heart, as I often heard growing up. Is it? Or is it something you discover? And if life is something we discover, then we're bound to change our minds. And that's got to be okay. As Khadijah always says, you're allowed to change your mind because you can.
Them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing.
And what they do is they weaponize liberal or leftist talking points in order to say, see, you don't believe all women. I would love to hear from these mothers and fathers who are struggling with vaccinated related autistic cases, but I don't want to hear it through the lens of your information. I want to hear it from them. And then I want to know, do they understand the science behind it? Because that's what we're talking about here, right? Of course, believe all women and then look for the answers. So we believe you that you believe you're having an experience. We believe you that you feel bad after getting the vaccine. Let's talk about it. Why did this happen to you but not other people? See, the dilemma is your experience isn't my experience. That doesn't discount your experience, but it means you're not allowed to discount mine either. That's the difference. Yes, we had different experiences. Both are valid. Let's figure out why it happened. But what they are doing is weaponizing their experience against all of us and saying, well, this was my experience, so this is your experience. No.
These mothers for 3 decades, because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community.
I also think, and this is what people don't want to hear, but a lot of autistic moms, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. You need to get a life. You are really obsessed with being an autistic mom. It is your whole identity. And your kid's autism is not your identity. Okay? So I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. When I hear autistic mom, I automatically cringe. Because talk about making it about you, girl. Okay? I know you're suffering. I know you need support. But you are not, you know what I'm saying? You need to relax. Okay? So I think a dilemma of like being an autistic parent or being a parent whose kid is suffering in a particular way. Like, look, lots of parents neglect their kids when they have a sick child. Guys, most people are not actually good enough in a lot of ways prepared to be parents. Like, how many cases do we have to hear about a kid who has cancer in the family and all the other kids get neglected because of it? Yeah, you guys do not know how to parent a sick child. But you think you do because you love them and you spoil them and you suffocate them. But do you also treat them like a dignified person who has their own personality, their own hobbies, their own goals, their own fears? You know? Like, you need to actually humanize everybody through this process, including your kids. And then you have to realize that like and this is what progressives have to understand too. Guys, disability can exist even if all of society was supportive of people with disabilities, right? I know a lot of people really believe that the world wouldn't be disabled if the world was set up differently, but Habibis, I love you so much. Disabilities exist outside of structures. They exist outside of constructs. Okay? Like, that's just the truth. And again, I think the way I explain like autism for me is like, or a disability that exists outside of a construct is like, if I'm on the couch and my consciousness is screaming on my body, get up and go to work. Get up and do stuff. You're fine. Everything's fine. But my body is like, I don't want to get up. I'm not doing stuff. I'm in pain. I'm sitting on this couch. That's not structurally built. Like, that's not the structure. That's my biological experience. And so what I have to do is accept that I'm not going to get stuff done today. My brain fog is too much. My body is shutting down. I don't have a choice. In the same way that you don't have a choice if your finger is broken. It's not the construct that's keeping it broken or not broken. It's just broken. Okay? So it's not a bad thing though. And the dilemma where the structure comes in to support you is with maybe housing or money or support that way. The way the structure supports you is not firing you from your job because you can't come into work today. Right? The structure that's supporting you is that people understand it, and it's a relationship of you not taking advantage of the system and the system not taking advantage of you. You know, all these Republicans, all these conservatives talk about how disabled people are trying to take, or fake disabled people are trying to, they're not fake, but you know, they're trying to take advantage of the system as if the system isn't trying to take advantage of you. As if the system isn't making you feel guilty for even calling out sick once a year. You know what I mean? So again, we need to both stop taking advantage of each other, but that has to be a reflection of us as a whole. You know, yes, chat, laziness is a construct. I think laziness is totally a construct. I don't think people are lazy. I think people are stifled. I think people don't have a philosophical relationship with self. I think people are nihilistic. I think people are suffering. Yeah, I don't think, you know, people are lazy. I think we're suffering and we have to learn to suffer wisely. And this is why I do philosophy, because I think philosophy is like the missing component from all of this. What is the philosophical outlook that RFK Jr. is using to expand on these ideas? Does he really believe this? Is this a grift? Does Trump even believe what he's saying? Probably not. And then what does it mean? How is this helping people? Because autistic people are telling you want us to listen to these mothers, which I think we should, but are you also listening to us? What about autistic people? Guys, even in preparation for this story, I was just trying to find autistic people speaking on behalf of themselves. Where are the autistic doctors? Where are the autistic leaders? Where are the autistic philosophers? Guys, we needed people in prominent positions speaking up and talking to people. Where are the everyday autistic adults who are like, you know, where's our lived experience? And again, not just like level ones or high needs, low needs, everybody. Where is the relationship we're having around our actual experience? Because right now, and this is the harm, is if you're only hearing from mothers who are struggling with the most, intense cases of autism, which is so fair, needs love and care and support, you're also building an image of autism that isn't the general consensus of autism. From my understanding, this isn't the general relationship with autism. And that's why they need love and care and focus as much as anybody else. Everybody does. But it's also breeding a lot more like, inappropriate concern. And I hate to say this, but conservatives tend to infantilize disabled people, and they tend to think of them as people who inappropriately need to be protected instead of appropriately protected. We need to protect everybody. You need to be protected even if you're neurotypical, non-disabled, you know what I mean? Like, you also need to be protected. Everybody should be protected. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's just like the way we protect people should look different, but everyone should be protected. So it's kind of like we're battling like 50,000 different thoughts and perspectives on this topic, and nobody is just talking about actually helping. You know, we need to help people, and we need to help people by having the right data and the right information to come to good conclusions. Okay? Chet says, I disagree. There's people who are lazy in their entitled way where they expect people to serve them. Cishet men who want servant wives. Well, they're not lazy. They're misogynistic. That's not laziness. That's misogyny. If a man says, I feel entitled to a woman serving me, that's not laziness. That's misogyny. When you call it laziness, you're attaching a lack of bigoted thought to it, or a lack of disabled existence or reality. Men aren't lazy. They're actually actively and quite, purposefully making this real, making this a reality for themselves. It's kind of the opposite of lazy, It's quite on purpose,
And we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find. We are researching this issue to all three agencies. Jay will discuss one of our research initiatives at NIH. This model of unleashing unbiased, depoliticized, gold standard scientific research and academic.
Yeah, Chet's right. The discourse said autism ideology is wild. Still behind, but was reacting to RFK Jr. saying that. Notice that they say that trans ideology, feminist ideology, autism ideology. These are buzzwords. These are scary things that we need to pay attention to. Autism isn't an ideology. But they're going to say, oh, not the diagnosis. They're going to say the people who are saying everybody's autistic. They're going to say, oh, the fact that all these people are being diagnosed, that's an ideology. They want you all autistic. You know what I'm saying?
Academic freedom to deliver actionable information to prevent and reverse disease will be a model for the framework to deliver similar results for many other chronic conditions that plague Americans. Jay?
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy, and thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
I'm proud to announce today that the NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative to turbocharge autism research, devoting an additional $50 million to the cause of studying autism. Nearly 250 research teams from across the country applied, sent in their applications, and were peer reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies, with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to arrest and reverse the autism epidemic. Autism spectrum disorder
reverse the autism epidemic
encompasses a very wide range of symptoms, ranging from mild difficulties with social interactions to profoundly autistic children who experience severe disability.
Also, I will say that a lot of the autistic experience of, quote, having problem with socialization is also just environmental, in the sense that y'all are fucking liars, you fucking non-autistic people. Because a lot of us in social situations are actually being completely fucking normal, and y'all are being weird as fuck. Okay? So I think the dilemma is like, neurotypicals are taught to lie and deceive and take advantage of people. And God forbid we don't want to do that. And I'm not saying I'm not saying all autistic people don't do that. But like, let's be so fucking for real that what you call socially inept behavior, I'm just calling out the fact that you're lying. And you're like, you can't do that. You can't tell people they're lying. Well, you're lying. So make it make sense, bitch. Okay? Oh, Brittany has a problem with authority ever since she was a baby. Well, maybe if these motherfuckers wouldn't lie, I wouldn't have to call them out, when I'm 6 years old. Stop lying to me, ho. And that's the problem. They're lying to me. And they're like, you're being so weird. You're so weird. Okay. So, okay, if we could actually be realistic about this, the part that is difficult with the autism is like the sensory stuff and the processing power and the losing spoons and, all of the things that are real. But the truth is like, we are in a position where we notice patterns, we notice people, we notice why people are doing things. And I go, why are you doing that? And they're like, why are you asking questions? That's not the autism. Well, maybe you could call it the autism. That's just whatever you have in your body that allows you to be so deceptive feels more like the disability to me. But maybe not. Maybe it's just the cruelty. You know what I mean? I'm not saying autistic people are innocent though, because I want to make sure we don't fall into that line of evangelizing autistic people as like, oh, they're so innocent. But I am sort of sick of looking at adults and being like, hey, you're lying. And they're like, I'm not lying. I'm like, you are lying. Like, I'm not. This is why when Ethan Klein and Destiny are like, all these people are evil, don't get it twisted. Like, all these people. No, we're not, dude. Like, some of us are genuinely trying to do right by people. We're genuinely trying not to lie. We're genuinely trying to be a good person. And you're out here being like, everyone's deceptive. Like, no. And Elon Musk is a good example. He's an autistic man who's very bad and lies all the time. He says Vivian is dead. Vivian isn't dead. She's out here protesting on behalf of trans people and she's modeling. You know, Vivian isn't dead. Also, apparently he cut her off from all of his money. So she makes her money just like her own way. We love an independent queen. Okay. So yeah, like Elon Musk is just an autistic person who's also bad. He has bad values, right? But autistic people, you know, we're aware that like, well, all people are aware that they're trained to lie, whether they admit it or not. We know that. You know what I mean? Like, we know that society encourages us to lie. I mean, Trump does it every time he opens his fucking mouth, and we just sit there and go, People do it all of the time. So separate yourself from the bubbles and just remember that we are biological creatures. We're evolved animals over millions of years, and this is the greatest we've evolved to be. It's okay, but we could do better. When we talk about introspective work and extrospective work, we're talking about having a deeper relationship with our biological experience, which is to actually know why something is happening instead of assigning blame to the thing that doesn't even make sense. So why does autism happen is a very interesting question. Why does it happen? And is it something, okay, that is, quote, needs to be prevented, right? Or is it even safe? So do you know why we can't actually have these conversations? The conservatives will ask that sometimes, like, why don't you guys want to have the conversation about preventing autism? Because every time we have it, you start talking eugenics. Because every time we talk about why people are trans, you start coming up with ways to eradicate trans people. That's why you are the reason why we can't have the conversation. Because you think I don't want to know? I want to know why everything happens, but not so I can eradicate a whole group of people, but so I can help people and make people's lives better. But it's not a safe space in a world with people who want to name you and put you on a list so they can, quote, get rid of you. That's the problem. You think autistic people aren't in communities asking ourselves these questions every day? We know we're interested in it. We just don't want to have a conversation with you about it because you're secretly like, cool, we can get rid of them now. No. We don't want to get rid of them. We don't want to get rid of anybody. And that's the dilemma. The dilemma isn't that the conversation within itself is a bad one. I think the dilemma is that your conclusion is always fucking eugenics somehow. And it's because you're hateful and bigoted. It's because you're afraid for the world. That's why Jordan Peterson goes on this rant about young girls becoming trans. Maybe those girls are autistic and undiagnosed. Maybe gender doesn't matter. Maybe you should slow your roll there, buddy. Again, you're allowed to believe that you turned a piece of bread into God and you ate his body, but God forbid we have a different relationship with like anything else. Like, you know what I'm saying? It can't even be a live and let live. They can't even live and let live. They can't even live and let live. Bro, I don't even want to paint religious people like they're crazy. That's not even what I want to do. I don't even want to sit there and make fun of you for eating a cracker and thinking it's God. I was raised Catholic. I get it. But at the same time, like, can you please just mind your business? I don't want to have to paint you as crazy to defend myself. I would like to just say, like, you do you, and I'm going to do me. But if you start coming at me with your bullshit, I'm going to start pointing out that you're eating a cracker and you think it's a man's body. Sorry, God's body. You know what I mean? Like, come on, guys. Come on, please, for real.
Disabilities in speech and behavior. Given this wide range of symptoms across the spectrum, it seems certain that there will be a wide range of biological contributors to explaining the cause. The great thing about the new NIH initiative on autism is that scientists will use rigorous advanced methods in causal inference, machine learning, organoids, and other fresh approaches to the problem. The sharp rise in the prevalence of autism deserves an urgent response by the scientific community.
Yeah, thank you, chat. Like Andrew Tate saying depression isn't real, then blames male self-unaliving rates on feminism. Depression's not real. Women are killing men because the men are not loved. They just want to have babies and make you money. That's my Andrew Tate impression. It's very bad.
As Bobby said, the NIH has invested a lot of money to study autism over the years, but the research has not produced the answers that families and parents of autistic children deserve, and autistic children themselves deserve. For too long,
By the way, I told members this on Monday's stream. I had a big convo with my parents. We're going to take a long, indefinite break from one another because they decided to die on a hill that was bigoted and prejudiced and very deeply evil. It is what it is, philosophically evil. I wish them the best and the greatest amount of joy. But let me just tell you this, girls. Whatever rabbit hole all these people are falling down, it is going to cause a rift so big and so significant. And a big part of it is exactly for this reason. You are putting us in this position to do it, and we don't even want to do it. We are sitting here trying to figure out ways to basically like make good with our families, and they are sitting there and making, basically every way to make it impossible. And that's the dilemma, okay? Again, it's not a block, it's not a permanent break, it's an indefinite break. Maybe until their deathbeds. Because after all of these years of waiting for people to be like, are you going to get it yet? And they're like, no, I'm going to double down harder. We've got to say that it matters, And it matters because every spoon I use, every ounce of energy I use, trying to get them to understand is wasted. It's like pouring water in a vessel that has holes in it when I could be feeding it to other people, when I could be helping other people. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that energy that I've put into my family and I'm going to put it into other people because other people need the help and support. So remember, as we're listening to this, it's not to hate people. It's to love them, open with boundaries, and to put that energy into people who need it. Okay. So when he says we want to support people, family, kids, all these things, I would love the support. I just wish it came in a different vessel. I wish it came, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? So like, again, I haven't even told my parents I'm autistic. You know what? That's the funniest part. I love my parents. They're so genuinely bigoted, but they're genuine. And they don't even know. They don't even know. And they don't watch my YouTube channel. And maybe they never will. Maybe my siblings will probably tell them eventually that I'm autistic. But I wonder what this message is going to mean to them. I wonder how they're going to take this information. You know what they probably you know what they're probably thinking? They're probably thinking she's not autistic. Because they're probably not going to be able to handle the diagnosis. But that's why I think it's so interesting, because all of my life starts to make so much sense. When I realized like, oh, I'm autistic, my whole life makes so much more sense now. Versus other people are like, no, you can't be autistic, because if they're autistic, what does that say about us? And now my mom, I wonder if she's wondering, did I take Tylenol when I was pregnant with the kids? My mom had 10 babies, right? Chad said, you're the only daughter, right? No. I have a sister and 8 brothers. 2 girls, 8 boys, 10 kids. And so it's one of those things where, I think, I wish I could have had this conversation with them sometimes, but they weren't a safe space to have the conversation with, because they're the kind of conservatives that says, if you have ADHD, don't take your meds. Or if you have fibromyalgia, eat a protein diet. Even though going vegan has helped my body so significantly, or plant-based has helped my fibro so significantly, they're like, no, that can't work. It has to be protein or meat-based or carnivore, But yeah, it's that kind of stuff where I almost wish we could have had that conversation, but they also didn't create the situation. So again, when conservatives say, why can't we have this conversation? You don't make it a safe space. My parents didn't even make it a safe enough space for me to tell them I'm autistic, because the first thing they do is quote RFK Jr. RFK Jr. does not create a safe space for me to talk about being autistic. And he should think about that. He should think about the fact that this is scaring lots of autistic people. That this is making a lot of autistic people feel very unsure about their future and whether or not they should even get diagnosed, because they're afraid they're going to get lumped in with, quote, the fakers or the ideology or whatever negative connotation he's putting on this diagnosis dilemma. And then blaming our mothers, What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You know?
It's been taboo to ask some questions for fear the scientific work might reveal a politically incorrect answer.
Oh, a politically incorrect answer. Be careful. Be kind to people and be responsible with how you interact with people, but be careful that this isn't the language they're weaponizing to basically turn it around on you. That's why it's so frustrating. We want answers. We just don't want the wrong ones, and they are only interested in the wrong answers.
Restricted focus in scientific investigations. The answers for families have been similarly restricted, often pointing families to behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid, or suggest.
And P.S., okay, behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid. CBT doesn't seem to work very well for autistic brains, but you know what does work? DBT. That's what I did, but I did it because they diagnosed me with borderline. Fun fact, lots of women diagnosed with borderline, but they're actually autistic. I think I'm both autistic and borderline, and I just did a great podcast of this over on the podcast channel. But with that said, DBT really, really helped me. And a lot of my autistic friends and or you guys in chat who tell me you guys really like DBT too. It was really fucking great. I love DBT. Some people it doesn't work for. It's not a one size fits all. It can't be. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Non-modifiable genetic factors is the cause. But genetics alone that don't work for every kid, or suggest non-modifiable genetic factors is the cause. But genetics alone can't explain such a sharp rise in autism prevalence over just a few decades, as the president said. In coming months and years, as NIH scientists learn more that can help autistic children and their families, we won't delay. Like scientists often like to do. I can say as a scientist myself, it's really tempting to delay, but but in face of a problem like this, you have to move fast. But we will not delay before telling American people about what we find, and we will win the public trust with transparency and rigor. Already, our broadened focus on autism research has pointed to 2 items that will help families prevent and treat some cases of autism. I'll leave the good news on these 2 items to my close friends and colleagues, Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz. We've been working together closely on this problem for the past 6 months, and our cooperation represents an unprecedented collaboration with Secretary Kennedy's Department of Health and Human Services and with President Trump. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Marty McCary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, who will tell you about these announcements of practical help for families with autism.
Great, thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Mr. President, this is the start of a historic shift in medical culture. This administration is working together to ask big questions about why our nation's children are getting sick so fast. Too often, medicine is doing small little studies, giving us answers we already knew. But we've got to make a difference. You've given us a charge to identify root causes, and we are not going to stop so that we can end the suffering we are watching. And if you've seen a kid with autism, with severe autism, it's hard to watch. Kids get frustrated, they get angry, they can be crying because they want to speak and they can't speak. It's hard to watch, and it may be entirely preventable. For an epidemiologist, that child is an expanding statistic, but for a child, it can be brutal to have autism. Today, the FDA is taking action to update the label on acetaminophen and sending a letter to all U.S. doctors letting them know about the risks in pregnancy. We now have data we can.
I won't speak to this here in this space, in a public space, because it's really hard to have this conversation and to deconstruct what he just said. Existing can be brutal, period. Which is why, as a society, we should be more thoughtful before having kids and more thoughtful when those kids come into the universe. But just simply existing itself can be a brutal experience. And that's, I think, a much more important conversation to be had than whether or not being autistic is specifically the most brutal part. Like, because that's just like a weird way to phrase it as an autistic person. I think hearing that, I understand what his brain might be thinking, but I don't believe him that he cares. Because if he cared, he wouldn't say what he just said. And that's what it feels like when you talk to, like, you know, your conservative parents and they're like, we love you, we care about you, we just hate the sin. I don't know that you could love and care for me in the way that I need, though I believe you care and love for me the way that you think, but I need it in this particular way because what you're saying isn't, you're not seeing me. You're not seeing me. So one of the ways I've been practicing with people in my life, and maybe this helps you guys, is I've been reworking the conversation to not be about ideas, but to be about seeing me. I want you to get to the point where you can repeat to me what I said to you in a way that allows me to feel like, yes, you understand, so we can move on. But until you do that, we're not going to do it. And I'm going to be genuine and good faith. Do you understand what you're saying? Because I think sometimes we if you come from a debate bro family like I do, we're just debating and we're not actually talking, or we're debating, we're not actually understanding or seeing each other. Like, they're not even seeing me when they're talking to me. I can see it. They're debating some liberal or some fucking CNN viewer or something else. Like, They're not talking to me. So one of the things I've started to put into practice, and we'll see how it goes, is just like, when you talk, I'm going to let you know when, like, no, you don't get it. And okay, I want to get it. I want to get it. Okay, try again. Nope, that's not it. That's not what I said. Okay, say it again. And until they get it, it is going to be what it is. And I'm not going to give in. Usually what I used to do is I used to say like, okay, like, I guess like, yeah, sure, you get it basically, but they didn't. But I would kind of like give people like a little, because I didn't want to like make them feel bad. But now I'm not going to try to make you feel bad, but I'm going to be very honest. You don't get it. No, you don't get it. You're not getting it. With peace and love, you're not getting it. And I know it's going to be frustrating. And I know you need some like, you know, you're going to feel kind of stupid, but I just want to tell you, I really appreciate you trying, but you're not getting it. And that's going to be really difficult for people. I think people are going to really struggle with that because people want to think they're getting it. You're not getting it. In the same way that even I, during the whole vegan process, wasn't getting it, but I can admit that. See how I can admit it? And that's the difference between my brain and other people's brains. And I think a lot of people's brains in my audience is like when I was talking to Ellie, her audience was like, whoa, Brittany's kind of so like refreshing. She's literally listening to you. Yeah, because I'm actually trying to understand. And it helped. I got a bubble pop during that conversation. I was like, oh, I get it. I wasn't getting it before, but I just got it. Thank you, bro. Like, she really sat there with me and I got it because of the way she explained it in my brain, but also I was there and I was listening. It wasn't a guarantee, but it happened. And that's what I want for people. First you have to admit, hey, I'm not getting what you're saying. I'm not getting it. Versus saying, oh, I get you. I get you. No, don't appease me like we're doing some fucking pickup artistry thing here. Okay? Don't neg me. Don't like pretend you get it. Do you get it? Yes or no? Don't pretend to get it. Oh yeah, dude, I get it. Like sometimes people are gay or trans. No, do you understand the trans experience? Okay? Same with racism. Do you understand black and brown people or do you think you understand it? Obviously, you're never going to be able to be in their shoes as a white person, but like, do you understand it for real or do you think you understand it? Do you actually get that neighborhoods are in food deserts or are you pretending to get it? Do you actually understand it? Because a lot of people really think they get it and they have no fucking clue. And that's why it's hard. Like, do I get it? Do I really get it? Oh, I think I got it. Oh, I don't know if I got it. And again, it's not a monolithic experience. You meet one black person, you met one black person. You met one brown person, you met one brown person. And there are billions of black and brown people. So you got to be very careful about also treating everybody like a monolithic experience, even white people, right? Everybody is different. And yet we fall into bubbles, we fall into stereotypes, we fall into groups. So when you find yourself and you want to know who you are in the story, just check yourself. Don't check others. Check yourself first. Who am I in the story? And is this who I want to be? And then move it. Today's podcast, I'm editing it. Guys, it's coming up. It's coming along so good. And it's about when you're gay but not queer. And it's about Leo Skepi and Jeffree Star. Please go subscribe to the podcast channel. Links in the description. Because this is what's missing from the conversation. Being queer is not the same thing as being gay. Okay, I am queer. I'm politically queer. I believe in deconstructing the expectation of the script that we've been given. And I believe we should be exploring the nuance of what it means to be a person away from these constructs. Okay? And we need to pay attention to the fact that lots of gay people will be utilized and weaponized by this administration because they're now all, quote, going right over Charlie Kirk. And they're going to be weaponized against other gay people and queer people. That's what they want. So Jeffree Star and Leo Skepi both came out in defense of Charlie Kirk. And you know, they just went full force into he was killed for his opinion. And now the administration will absolutely use that. And P.S., not to deviate from this conversation about autism, because I think it's so important, but I also unsubscribed from anybody who in any way allowed this administration to weaponize their platform to spread more misinformation about the left. If you're a content creator, especially a feminist content creator who makes content about how men hate women and then used your last fucking breath and status on the internet to support a man who hates women, Charlie Kirk. Unsubscribed. I cannot believe that I had the audacity to see two content creators that I used to watch make videos about the crazy left instead of spending any time making videos on the crazy right and the way they have weaponized this man's death to come for your family and friends. The way that you spent your limited time on earth making an essay, a video essay in favor of Charlie Kirk, when you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to say anything bad about him. You could have denounced the people laughing at his death. But the fact that you spent your time making this content, going after the leftists instead of the administration with actual power, who's absolutely going to come for you, that's crazy. Who though? Authentic Observer. She changed her name. She has a new username. She made a video. So good luck, girly, because they're going to come for you too as a woman. I can't believe this woman has a feminist platform and just used it to basically absolutely be used for propaganda from this administration. And then Leighton Chronicles, I can't believe Leighton, who's a black man, literally black and brown. Is he a black man or a brown man? He's a black brown man. Leighton is brown, okay? He's brown. And he made a video, okay, about the same thing. What are you doing? What are we doing? Don't you see how this administration is using you? Like, don't you see how they're using you? Why would you waste your space talking about these very fringe leftist groups instead of talking about this administration utilizing those same videos you just made to push narratives against women, black and brown people? Why would we do this? Why would we do this? Okay? So again, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how easily it is to capture the hearts and minds of people who claim they care about racism and misogyny and all these other things. Just ridiculous. What a ridiculous waste of time. So again, I say to you, you can try to get distracted by these TikTokers who are making some uncouth videos, or you can focus on the administration with power who's actually going to come knocking at your door.
Cannot ignore. There's a very large study, the Boston Birth Cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found quote unquote consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association. Sure, you'll be able to find a study to the contrary. That's how science works. But to quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. We cannot wait any longer. And honestly, there's been this perfunctory, reactionary, mindless practice in medicine. I learned it in medical school and residency. Just treat all fevers, low-grade fevers, treat them with acetaminophen. Why? What are we doing? A study out of Hopkins actually showed that treating a fever.
I mean, you can look into this and I think you should figure it out, but why are you attaching it to the autistic experience? And what about, when did Tylenol get introduced, or when did this get introduced into the system? I don't get it. Is this going back? Because we know autistic people existed throughout history. We have really good indications to believe that we've always existed. And that, so then the question is like, when did you know what I mean? Like, if you're upset that they're default using this drug, then wouldn't it be more than just autistic people being impacted? I'm just confused.
Can prolong the duration of illness in a young kid. Maybe that's because a fever is a body's natural way of ridding an infection. When my wife was pregnant and delivered our son a few months ago, they pushed her to take acetaminophen for a low-grade fever. She said no, and then they looked to me and I said, absolutely no. I'm also here to announce good news. Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be
Oh, we got a new treatment. Okay. Wow. I wonder how many of them are invested in this new treatment.
available to children with autism. You know, autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know. We are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, 2/3 of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement. Mr. President, you told us to do what's medically right, to go bold, and not worry about the corporations and the lobbyists.
So what? They made a new pill for us to take, a new thing. And so they're getting rid of the old thing so we can take the new thing? Or there wasn't even an old thing. What?
So that's what we're here doing today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good, thank you.
What?
Thanks, Marty. I think you all appreciate the passion in the president's voice. We've been hearing that since the inauguration. In fact, even before the inauguration. The president was upset about what he spoke to today. And so together with Secretary Kennedy, who's made it his life's work to address some of these challenges with autism, they challenged us.
Yes, Chad said, isn't Tylenol one of the few painkillers women can take? Yes. That's why the fact that there's like, Trump said women have to tough it out for their pregnancies. Excuse me? Are we literally watching like a shopping commercial? Do they want us to call in and buy their supplements? What are we talking about here?
In fact, they were harsher than that. They wanted no silos to break down what the NIH would do, what the FDA would do, what CMS would do. They insisted that the physician leaders bust through the clutter because their agencies had the power. If we didn't do what every other prior administration had done, which is to let people function within their siloed environments. Because of that, in historic fashion and a very accelerated manner, we have a response today to the autism crisis. It is the first of several chapters, but this is breaking news. You've heard some of it. The response to the autism crisis is going to continue to come to you under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, and the president wouldn't have it any other way. As you've heard, the FDA, based on NIH research, is approving prescription leucovorin.
Chad says, this is pregnant women will need a man's permission to get Tylenol. This isn't just about autism. I mean, obviously something bigger is at play. It always is with this administration. That's the pattern. They introduce something more digestible, then they weaponize it for something bigger. They introduce something more digestible, then it's not digestible to us because we're like, seems suspicious. But to their group, their conservative voters, the voters go, yeah, we want a cure for autism. Why not? And they don't think about the consequence of that thing, right? But when we hear that, we're like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Just a reminder that it used to be considered a mental illness that enslaved people wanted to run away from their slave owners. Just remember that. They used to call you medically insane for wanting to run away from your slave, the people who claim to be able to own people. That's what I'm saying. That's why you have to be careful who's giving you what information, because this pipeline is the same pipeline. This is the same pipeline. That's why we're suspicious. And that's why conservatives and progressives actually have a suspicion of authority, because we've all been fucked over by authority. It's just we're not in agreement about why and who fucked us over, because well, you know why. That's why I say, at the end of the day, stick with me here, okay, girls? You exist outside of politics. You have to. Because history's always been this way. It's always been this way. And if you're a part of those groups of people who've never had a time in history to ever hold power overall, to never feel accepted, to ever feel like we had empires, it's probably because, one, we didn't even want it. And the people who seek power are truly the worst kind of people. And ultimately, this will be our life forever. And I never want you to feel bad about that. I never want you to feel bad that it seems like good people get fucked over, because I want you to remember that if you believe good people get fucked over, you might actually become a bad person if you internalize that for too long. Okay? So just a reminder that we all live in a bubble. And right now it feels like this is the only thing that's real, but there are all these other bubbles, all these other ways to live life and to share perspective. This is where Oz and Trump is and JD Vance. You can be chilling here. You can be over 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 here. But this is where you live intellectually, spiritually, right? This is what that is. This is a very big part of existence, but it's not where you need to be. It's where you need to pay attention to, which is different. Okay? I don't want you to get swallowed up. I don't want you to go in there and get swallowed up by the crazy. Okay? I want you to give yourself a break. I want you to realize you don't have to exist within this construct. I want you to realize you can live your life within reason, but not get swallowed up by this craziness. And I want you to know that you're only here for a very short time. And I want you to have a really good, as much as you can, a good life. And also recognize that if we zoom out, this is normal. We're in a cycle. We're living history. This is all predictable. This was always how it was going to be, because humans are a reflection. The whole world's a reflection of us as a whole. And this is how history has gone. This is it, baby. We're living history. When I was a little girl and I was learning about race riots and the 70s and Vietnam and stuff, I used to think, man, I really missed out on history. I really missed out on a chance to really be on the right side of history and to protest. Joke's on 10-year-old Brittany, right? We didn't miss out, because what a privilege would that have been? No, we're here and we get to do it and we get to participate in it. And it is the reality of actually like not being privileged, right? Because we think like, oh, we have to save the world. We're going to stand up for what's right. But here we are, you know? So I want you to take like deep breaths through the whole process and understand it and still be kind and at least attempt to die a good person, because certainly none of these people will. Okay? You know, these people, they're all going to die bad people. But the least we can do for ourselves is try to die good people. You know?
For treatment of autistic children. Now, if you're following the script, there should be two questions that you have. Two questions that should come to your mind. The first is, how will patients and parents get access to the treatment? I'll tell you how. Over half of American children are covered by Medicaid and CHIP, government health insurance. Over half. And therefore, because they're covered in Medicaid and CHIP, upon this label change by Marty, state Medicaid programs in partnership with CMS will cover prescription leucovorin around the country. It's yours, but you have to go to a doctor to get a prescription because they know your child, they know you, and they know the medication. States will also have tools to monitor its use and ensure appropriate utilization.
So they want people to get diagnosed with autism so they can get the treatment. So they want you to go get diagnosed. So they want to know who you are, or they want to know,
That's important for a bunch of reasons, because we want the right kids getting the right prescription medications. We believe private insurance companies will rapidly follow our lead if they have not already done so. And again,
what's going to happen when all these conservative parents who have never bothered to take their kids to get diagnosed start to do it, and they realize like there's so many more autistic kids than they thought, so many more ADHD kids than they thought? What are they going to do then? What about the women who have never taken Tylenol while pregnant and they still have autistic kids? What about those? What about like our great grandmas who had kids and we're all pretty sure they were autistic? Like, what about that?
to make sure that this is safe and effective treatment, you need a physician to prescribe the medication because it's on prescription. Second big question. How are we going to collect clinical data to answer the big questions that the president's asking and the secretary insists that we offer? CMS is also issuing guidance to convene states and existing research networks to support NIH and FDA in their research efforts of prescription leucovorin, while also maintaining the privacy of all patients, all health information of our beneficiaries. Collecting real-world data, which is what many of you have been asking us to do in the community, is fast, it is life-saving, and we'll get answers based on what happens over the next few months with this approach. The aggressive approach, and it is aggressive, demanded by the president and by the secretary, have already identified risk factors and opened the door for the first FDA-recognized treatment pathway for autism. It is the first of its kind.
What is the treatment? Is he claiming they're going to cure autism? Is he literally claiming that? Is he literally claiming that? What is he claiming right now?
It wouldn't have happened without the leadership of the president and the secretary. The fivefold increased prevalence of autism over the past 25 years demands a rapid response. The average clinician, researcher, we spoke to many, thought it would take 5
Is he saying it's just going to help mitigate symptoms? What is he saying?
years to get this data. Parents are unwilling to wait 5 years. The president is unwilling to wait 5 years for these results. So the president and the secretary are acting today with this tri-agency move. The administration's bold actions investing in groundbreaking research follow the science. They restore trust, which has been lacking, and they will change the trajectory for millions of American families.
So they're saying, Chad is saying, no, they want to do the research to then make something to save? What are they talking about? Treatment. We're going to get you treatment. You're going to sign up for treatment. What treatment? The treatment you just mentioned, which does what? What does it do? How many clinical trials have been done? What are the results? Who are the people who have done it? What are the benefits? Like, what are we talking about?
President, God bless you for being brave.
Oh, brother, bro.
Let me introduce Dr. Fink, who's acting administrator. And after Dr. Fink, we've got some wonderful women, Jackie and Amanda. I know it's going to be tough, but if you can make some comments about this historic day, God bless you.
Oh, brother.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to speak with all of you today. As a pediatrician and mom, I'm here today to talk about what this announcement means for the millions of moms and dads who are faced with the choice of whether to take acetaminophen during pregnancy. It's hard to hear information that challenges the status quo. We are sharing this information not to...
Didn't you just say God? You believe in a man in the sky. What do you know about facts? With peace and love. No offense.
confuse, but to empower parents to make the best choices when taking medications during pregnancy. We are all concerned about the rising rates of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are dedicated to radical...
Yeah, they literally are the status quo. You know why? Habibi, listen to me. They literally believe they are the minority. Conservatives literally believe, even though Trump won this last election, that they have the audacity to say they're the minority. They literally think they are not the status quo. How are you not the status quo? How are you not the status quo? How are you not the elite? How are you literally not the default? My bros. The constructed default, of course.
Transparency, so that patients have the best, most up-to-date information. We are also sharing this information with our nation's doctors, and we encourage you, as always, to consult with your doctor to make the best decision.
Chad says this is mass psychosis. Fun fact, it's not. It's actually just human beings being human. Humans gonna human. This is no different than any time before. This is exactly what happened every time before. It will happen again in cycles, and this is what it means to be a person. It's actually not psychosis. It's just people. Yeah, this is it, girls. This is the best we can do. This is humans. This is who we are. It's who we've always been. How does it feel? How does it feel to radically accept that this is who we've always been and who we will always be? Should feel a little relieving. Should feel a little scary. Should feel a little bit like, okay, well, if it's always going to be this way, how do I do a little bit of good while I'm here? Okay? But this is it, you know? This is it. This is it. Not bad, not good, just what it is, you know? So do something good today. Do something kind today. Be nice to people. Be nice to yourself. Because this is it. And it was always going to be this way, and it's always going to be this way. And it goes in cycles. It gets better on the macro, but on the micro, girl, this is it. You know? Just as it feels evil. I mean, it is evil, but we're out of sync with our joy. We do not know how to be a joyful population. Humans have not evolved to prioritize joy. We're like little worker ants. And you know how the ants do the death spiral? That's what we're doing right now. There's a death spiral happening. And that's why I tell you, like, girls, you don't have to be in the death spiral. I know you think you do. I know that your ant brain wants you to go into this death spiral. Okay. It wants you to just like kill yourself by going into this. Do you know what a death spiral is with ants? They follow each other and they'll start spiraling. And then they do it for so long that they all just die together. Okay. Yeah. You don't have to do that. You can just be over here watching it happen. You know what I mean? Because like it is partially a participation. It's partially a choice a little bit. Okay. And it's sad and it is what it is, but it also doesn't have to be. Okay. Nothing that is what has to be, nothing that is happening has to happen, but it kind of has to happen, right? Like we can't, these are two contradictory thoughts that have to work together. You have free will, but you don't really have that much free will. You have a choice, but not that much choice. You have a limitation based off your biological experience, but not in an IQ way, not in the conservative eugenics way, and the literal reality that we're like evolved animals over millions of years, and it is what it is. And so be kind to each other, be loving towards each other, do right by people, and try your hardest not to become hateful. Try your hardest not to become in your own evil, right? Don't resent people, don't be angry at people, be angry for people. Okay, don't be angry at the world, be angry for the world. Because there are still so many beautiful things like that are possible, and it starts with you. It has to, because if it doesn't start with you, then who? You know what I'm saying? Like these people have already made a decision. I hope they change their minds because they always can, you know, but until they do, it's not going to change my mind on being a good person. Their decision to be a bad person has nothing to do with me. Even though technically it will impact me in some ways, it doesn't have anything to do with how I show up in the world, right?
For you. All too often, it's easy to think that medicines we buy without a prescription pose little to no risk for the mom or the baby. As you heard today, pregnant women who need high fever or pain reduction during pregnancy should take the lowest effective dose of acetaminophen for the shortest possible duration. Most women will not meet these indications during their pregnancies. I am encouraged by these developments today because it is another example of our commitment to the American people to leave no stone unturned in improving the health of our nation's children. Next, I'm going to turn it over to some incredible mothers who are going to share more about their stories, and we're so grateful to have you here today.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and team, for all your work. This is an historic day, and I'm thankful to be here. I have a son who's 5 who is profoundly autistic, and you've probably heard if you've met
So also the word profoundly autistic is highly debated, whether or not we should call it profound autism, because it implies that they're higher needs autistic, but profound autism kind of is a word that can be like hurtful to some people, as if to say they're almost like too disabled to be helped in a sense. But some people think it's comforting because profound makes it sound like important or like we should pay attention. Same way that Asperger's kind of implied someone was a genius when they weren't, or extra smart when they weren't. It's like there's an issue with the word profound autism that people are having with it. So when she comes out already saying profound autism, you can kind of get an idea of what autism bubble she's in, right?
One autistic child, you've met one autistic child. It's a spectrum.
True.
Which I don't think the spectrum is helpful, but that's another.
Wait, what? No.
5 who is profoundly autistic. And you've probably heard if you've met one autistic child, you've met one autistic child.
True.
It's a spectrum, which I don't think the spectrum is helpful, but that's another conversation. He is an amazing little boy, a blessing from God. He's marvelous. He can count to 1,000. He knows all of his letters and the sounds they make and a word for each one. But he also has a lot of obstacles. He is nonverbal. He can say those numbers and letters, but there's no communication. Unless you've lived with profound autism, you have no idea. You have no idea. He, like you said, he will get frustrated because he can't speak. It's not even that he can't speak. Sometimes he just doesn't understand what I'm saying. He understands the word no, but he doesn't understand the why behind the no. And that's a huge part of discipline. That's the discipline. So
Look, this mother should not be put here as an example or a token. I think it's really wrong that she's being manipulated and used because she is probably struggling so deeply and it is probably so hard for her. Hear me when I say this, that there are parents who are conservative who hit their children because of discipline. Now you have an autistic kid. I've heard parents on TikTok say, I hit my autistic kids the way I hit my neurotypical kids because your autism isn't an excuse away from discipline. This is bigger than your child autistic. We need to talk about how parents still hit their kids as a person who was hit as a kid. We need to be talking about discipline as a concept around children. Autistic people, all we care about is why. All we care about is why we do everything we do. That's exactly why it was so frustrating to people my whole life. Why? And when I ask why, I'm not challenging you. I want to know. Her kid is probably deeply curious about why. And you're probably utilizing the accidental wrong tools to help that child. And so like my issue when I hear that is like, oh, he doesn't understand the why. And that's like the key to discipline. Well, maybe a big problem with that is like we're not utilizing the right language tools to communicate. And I'm terrified for that kid and I'm terrified for her and I'm terrified for everybody who has good intentions. But the road to hell is paved in your good intentions. And I feel concerned that you're putting this mother up here and utilizing her as an example, but she doesn't even have she's obviously out of her element here, you know? And I'm devastated about that, you know, but I'm hearing so much misinformation out of her already. I already hear this isn't very helpful. This is this. I'm already hearing so much like, I can tell she's miseducated. And that kills me because I know she needs help. I know in America, there's no way she's not getting the financial need. There's no way she is getting the financial need she needs. There's no way she isn't stressed. There's no way, you know. I know in America, it's already hard enough having no kids, let alone having multiple kids, let alone having a disabled kid, let alone having, you know, the world is difficult. So, you know, I have a lot of compassion for where she is. I just wish she had maybe rubbed elbows with like a better group of people, you know?
it's very hard to discipline a child with autism, so you have these behaviors.
I disagree. I don't know that it's hard to discipline a kid with autism. I think we need to be very careful about disciplining children. I think we're generally wrong with how we discipline most children.
And it's very...
Because we shouldn't be punishing kids. We should be teaching them and instructing them and showing them why. And actually, fun fact, neurotypical kids also don't know why their parents do what they do if you always say, well, I'm the parent and that's why. So remember, like, your neurotypical kids are also suffering because they don't know why they're doing what you want them to do. They're just doing it because you said so. It's usually the autistic kids are like, hey, why are we doing this? It's like, don't ask questions. Don't talk back. Okay, but why? Yeah, chances, why is she bringing up discipline? Isn't that interesting? That because she's not, I don't want to come for her because she's probably not trained. But the first thing she goes to is about disciplining her kid, which is a huge red flag. Yeah.
Hopeless feeling. It's very isolating being a parent with a profound autistic child. Even just taking them over to your friend's house is something we just don't do because, again, they're going to be met with no, and no understanding of why. And then there's a meltdown. And then you're in a situation where you're just helpless and you're just trying to protect your kid. So it's just better not to do it. You learn your limits, and it's been really hard. This is amazing that we're here today. And no one has been able to point to any.
It's exactly. She's desperate. She has no community, no people who have loved and taken care of her. I mean, heck, I know people, guys, progressives have been talking about this. Y'all are too anti-kids. Y'all gotta be nicer to these communities. You are not there for your friends with kids. You are not supporting growing families. I know you decided not to have a kid. I decided not to have a kid, but that does not mean that I'm not supportive of people who did have kids. You know what I mean? So like, this is the problem with all of us. Like, this is what struggle. Like, I know this woman is struggling because she has the same story most people have. Okay. You have got to stop being anti-children if you want to build community, because who is the community if not the children? Okay. So again, like, we have to build a really deep understanding that this woman she is being neglected by her community. If she has no social structure, no people to allow her kid to come over, no way to have a conversation, then yeah, of course it's hard. Of course this is all hard. You know? And I understand we live in a world where most of our friends shouldn't be even having kids in the first place, but here we are. Okay? But maybe you should also have a village where you could say, maybe no kids. I love telling my friends not to have kids. And yes, do they get mad at me all the time? And I say, girl, you can't even pay your own goddamn bills. What are you having kids for? Girl, you're literally so tired after work, you can't do dishes for 3 days. You're not having kids. And they go, I can't believe you just said that to me. I was like, I can't believe you talked about bringing a consciousness into the universe when you can't even do laundry. No. And so maybe a little bit of that needs to be happening too. We're out here making new babies every day with absolutely no thought put into it. And now that they're here, we have to build a community for them, which we should be doing. Okay? Before the babies are here, we can call our friends out and say no. But once our kids are here, okay, and some of our friends are capable. Some of our friends are doing their due diligence. Some of them are preparing correctly. Okay? But some people, okay, we need to have larger conversations. But see how conservatives want you to have babies? What did Trump want to do? Pay people or give them an award for having 6 or more kids? They want you to have babies before you're prepared. They want you to pop out baby after baby so they can have workers and taxpayers. What did RFK Jr. say in his first press conference about autism? They're never going to have a job. Yeah, that maybe is sad because, like, I do love my job. But also, your life isn't sad because you don't have a job. So remember that.
Anything to say this is what caused it, and you can't point to that. And it's been really hard. This is amazing that we're here today. And no one has been able to point to anything to say this is what caused it, and you can't point to that and say it didn't cause it. I have no idea. I'm completely open. I'm not blaming anything, but I'm open to the discussion and the fact that there's work being done to find answers. I'm very grateful. I was already excited to vote for Mr. Trump anyway, Mr. President, but when we got word of RFK doing his work, I was ecstatic. I could not wait for this work to be done, that somebody would try to find us some answers. I'm just very grateful. I pray for my son every day and hope that he can get the help that he needs.
I really feel for her, bro. I'm not going to lie. Oh, she's going to make me cry because I think she means well. Somebody get this girl some support. Somebody get this girl a community. Oh. Nothing breaks my heart more than people struggling, genuinely struggling. Oh, man.
I know. Just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. You take care of yourself.
Hi, my name's Jackie. I'm also extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here and share my son's story. My son is Eddie. He's 11. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Amanda just explained. He's considered high functioning.
Outdated language.
He was not always high functioning. He was nonverbal till the age 4. We've had quite...
That's really common. That's That's really common. Delayed speech patterns, delayed reading, delayed stuff. Maybe not so much, like, but being delayed is not actually that abnormal. And like, you can have a kid, you never know. Some of us are late starters. That's why we're late starters. You know what I mean?
Quite a hard time to get to the place where we are today. I am just so grateful to President Trump and the entire administration for finally listening to moms who have been crying out for help, for answers for years. I've met so many other moms with children on the spectrum in the 9 years since my son's diagnosis, and they all have very similar stories. And they've all just wanted somebody to listen, to not ridicule them or look at them like they were the crazy people. It's hard when you don't have doctors that take.
No, Chad said I don't care about these ladies and think they need to get CPS to take their kids. Hey. That is deeply unkind. You know that. You know that's deeply unkind. You said they're damaging their kids. What did your parents do that got you to write that comment in my comment section? You know what I mean? Like, come on, girl. That is not the energy we want. Gerp, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you. Guys, we do not want to have this attitude that armed and uniformed people should come into people's home and take their kids away because they're misinformed. We do not want to live in a world where armed and uniformed people come take our kids from us. Because that same conversation can be used against people who raise their kids being gay or queer. You said, I'm sorry, I'm so triggered. That's okay. You're allowed to be triggered. But remember not to make decisions when you're triggered. Okay? Be focused. Be kind. Be grounded. Because that's how they take advantage of people, is people are wounded. And so they come to say, you know, we'll save you. We'll save you. We have to be kind. These parents are struggling. Again, you guys, like, I know so many people who work with autistic kids who are really high needs. Yeah, there's a spectrum, and it's not like a linear spectrum. It's a circular spectrum. I know it's not about being autistic or not autistic, right? It's about the reality that being a human is so difficult, whether you're autistic or not. Being a person is so fucking hard. But how scary for those kids who are autistic to be pulled away from their parents and what they know and put into a strange home where they are more than likely to be molested. How is that going to help? Okay? Like, how is that going to help? How are these foster cares going to help? How is this whole thing going to help? You know what I mean? You have to be very cautious with the way we go around tearing kids from their homes. A kid who's in a home that isn't even the greatest, but not the worst, has a better chance of moving on with their life than a kid who's taken. I'll tell you this, as a kid myself who was autistic in the home that I was in, was way better for me to be raised in that home than to leave. Way better. My chances are way better now that I was never taken away from my parents. Okay? So again, we have to like really process this information. Sometimes CPS has to be called and it's the best thing that ever happened. Sometimes when they're called, the best thing doesn't happen for those kids. So you have to be cautious about taking children away from their parents. Because I'm telling you this right now, and this is why we're all very uncertain about each other, is because if we start taking away their kids, who's to say they won't start taking away ours? You should feel concerned. You should feel concerned. Okay? CPS is sometimes necessary and often isn't called what it is. But sometimes I am concerned about this lax attitude about taking kids away from parents. We should we should do preventative work, right? You should give parents the reassurance that they can do better for their kids and eventually give those kids resources to get out of those homes if they need it, right? If they need it.
The time to really listen and find out when the change happened and what change happened. And it's just, I've been praying for this day for 9 years, and I'm so thankful to God.
Is she saying the change that happened is that her kid was nonverbal, then was verbal, right? That's like pretty common. In the same way that like I was able to mask most of my life, but it got harder as I got older, nothing changed. I biologically changed in the sense that I don't have the energy to keep it up, but my struggles were always my struggles. And look, I don't talk a lot about my autistic struggle on the internet because it's not a safe space. No offense. But like I also stopped talking about my BPD struggles, though there's not that many, if any at all, actually, to be honest. It's in remission. But my autistic struggle is like even my fibromyalgia. Like I don't really talk about it because it's not a safe space on the basic internet to talk about it. So I keep it very minimal. And I try, even making the BPD podcast I made a couple of weeks ago was so hard because I had to go into the depths of the internet, which is so toxic, to talk about BPD. And it's so difficult because as somebody who's in recovery, the internet tempts the trigger to come back. The internet is such a bad place to get better. And yet it is such a magical place to find community. I really feel like the internet is the worst and best place of society. And same with real life spaces in general. I have found the greatest resources on the internet. And yet I also have to be cautious about those resources, you know? So I feel for these mothers first and foremost, because I think they genuinely want to help their kids. And what's so painful is the road to hell is paved in good intentions, you know?
For bringing the administration into our lives. And I'm speechless. This day is a day I never thought would happen. I thought that we would never have an administration that was courageous enough to look into things that no prior administration had. So I'm just here to express my gratitude, and I am looking forward to what comes from this, and hopefully we just get more answers. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just want to say acetaminophen is basically Tylenol, essentially, because I noticed that term is used throughout this conference. So it's essentially Tylenol. And
See, now that's the brand reference. So can the brand sue him?
I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely necessary. I understand it's maybe 10% of the women that are pregnant are, would perhaps be forced to use it. And that would mean you just can't tough it out. No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation, maybe stronger from me than from the group, because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say, I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. If you just can't, I mean, it's just fight like hell not to take it. There may be a point where you have to, and that you have to work out with yourself. So don't take Tylenol. Other things that we recommend, or certainly I do anyway, is, and it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff.
You know, people would go to the doctor more if maybe they had health insurance, and maybe if people would help them. What is he talking about? What?
If you've ever seen times for a vaccine, don't let them pump your baby up with. See the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine.
What?
Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby, even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, great comment, chat. What did they think caused autism before we invented? Yeah, that's the Tylenol. Thank you. That's what I want to know. What was the cause of autism before Tylenol? When did those things interact? I think I read the first case of autism might have been documented in the 1700s. When was Tylenol available for people? 1960, but is that the brand? Like the brand was available from Johnson & Johnson? What about the drug? Hold on. I don't know the history of this. That's the problem. I'm not educated. Does anybody know like when it started coming in the form that they're worried about? That's what I want to know. See, we need somebody who who knows the timeline, because I don't know the timeline. And that's why I'm confused.
You just break it up into, I would say 5.
1878. So then after we had already understood autism as a possibility, like we know autism. I guess we don't really know because we don't know what we're defining as autism. The dilemma is like, we don't actually know autism isn't detectable yet. As far as I know, same with BPD. Some people think that you can scan a brain and see it, but I didn't get my brain scanned to be diagnosed with anything. Right? So I'm a little confused, I think, when we're having these conversations about like, oh, you're autistic, you're BPD, you're this. Like, it's a construct based off of symptoms and a list of groupings that we then call this thing, which is fine. But then that's why I say, like, I think this is the problem that people don't understand. I don't know that we can, like, I don't know, like, hold on. Chat said brain scans. I didn't know that. No, some people claim there are brain scans. I did not take a brain scan, and I do not know that to be true. I am not the person saying there are brain scans. I'm saying some people are arguing that you can scan the brain and see, BPD and autism and stuff. I don't know that that's true. And I'm saying because we're all getting different tests to figure out what we are. What about the fact that like some of us are diagnosed on the first day, or some of us are diagnosed in less than a year, or some of us are diagnosed like this conversation needs to be also around the reality that we are, again, people diagnosing people, and people are flawed. But the experience we're having is real, whether the diagnosis is real or not. That's what I always said about being BPD. When people were like, you don't seem to have BPD, call it whatever you want to call it. DBT helped me. I don't care what you call it. At the end of the day, something is going on and I need help. And whatever you want to call this thing that I need help for, okay, I just need to be better. And I think people sometimes get bogged down by the labels of it, which is why they can't handle the fluidity. I'm open to the fluidity of it. Okay, same with being trans or genderqueer or whatever else. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's a real authentic experience. I'm having an experience. And the experience itself is valid. It's like they're trying to invalidate the experience by calling it something or not calling it something. We're human beings. We use words as a way to simplify. But obviously, it's going to have its faults. Like the simplification is going to be a problem, right?
But let's say four visits to the doctor instead of one. And
oh, great. Maybe if we could afford it. We should be having national go to the doctor day every 6 months. Like, what do you mean?
Certain things I think you should do. We've already taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body? And there were rumors about both of them for a long time. But we're having them taken out. We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted. And we think you should wait. I think you should wait till 12.
No, it's not. What are they talking about?
I'm making these statements from me. I'm not making them from these doctors.
I am making these statements from me. I'm not making it for the doctors. I'm gonna fucking scream. Shut up then. Shut up. Oh my God. Why is he giving out medical advice? You're not a doctor.
Because when they talk about, different results, different studies, I talk about a lot of common sense, and they have that too.
Common sense. They
have that too, a lot. But I recommend the hepatitis B. Take it at 12. Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old. And there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12. Doesn't seem to be a problem at all. The MMR and the chickenpox. Chickenpox has already been broken out. It's a singular.
Oh my God.
Singular shot, but the MMR is not. And I've heard for years that there's a problem with it. But they say that there's no problem if you do each shot separately, not put together. So an MMR, go out and do it separately. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby after the baby's born. Every time the baby gets a shot, the baby gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol. Now, Tylenol is fine for people that aren't pregnant, that aren't in the situation that we're talking about. One very specific situation. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. Break up your visits to the doctors. Break them up. Do it in 5 if you can. Now, it's inconvenient. Oh, you have to go back another year later. You're going to go back each year for 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. Just break it up. Break it up.
This is crazy. This is the craziest just ramble and rant. He is literally going right off the dome. He's like, I'm just going to say some shit. he's just yapping. He's just yapping. Holy shit, this is rough. Woo! Guys, thanks for watching it with me. This is a rough fucking watch. Jesus Lord.
Because it's too much liquid. Too many different things are going into that baby at too big a number. The size of this thing, when you look at it, it's like 80 different vaccines and beyond vaccines, and 80. Then you give that to a little kid. I mean, I can tell you that I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in
oh my God.
Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child, beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant. And I said, that's great. And one day I came in and she was crying her eyes out behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was. I said, are you okay? What happened? My boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy, you know him, sir. You've seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. You know, it goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. You know, we hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high. And they get fried. She said, I took him, he developed an unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see. That was the following day. After.
I mean, that's really sad. That's like a really devastating story. Is he going to blame it on vaccines? Like, that's really sad. But what's the point of the story? I don't get it.
The vaccine. And I've seen it 2 other times, and I think 3 other times, but 2 other times where they go to the doctor and they get the vaccine, they get the shot. The kid is, badly hurt. Let's be nice, badly hurt.
I mean, that's really sad, right? You know? Ted said, it was originally synthesized from plants, so I wonder how long humans have been using it, like a monkey chewing on the leaf for pain relief. Well, look, like, it's not, okay, everything, in my belief, in my understanding, everything comes from the earth, right? Everything evolved, everything comes from us, like the oceans, the earth, like nature. So all of our drugs, all of our computers, all of our metals, everything is just like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that women haven't had this in their system, or people who have been having babies haven't had it in their system. It's a conversation about, like, what does it mean to have it in your system? And if it's in it's like the conversation is, if we evolve to be this way, this is a part of that evolutionary process, but let's talk about it. Again, all of the struggles right now that they're focused on with autistic people seem to be struggles that other people are also struggling with. And the uniqueness that makes it an autistic struggle is less being focused on, in a sense. Like, what does this story have to do with autism? He's telling me right now. He's making an anti-vax argument, right? So then I think the issue isn't that, again, I think we're evolved animals. So everything we're doing is a part of our experience. And I'm saying, how are we supposed to get to a conclusion if this is the data we're using? The data should be, what is the data and what does it mean? But the goal, if you come in researching with the goal being to eradicate autism, did you first even ask yourself the philosophical question about what is autism? What does it mean to be autistic? And look, my Discord and I were just having a conversation about The Good Place because we're watching and deconstructing The Good Place as a through a philosophical lens. And one of the questions we asked ourselves is, like, if we were in the good place or if we were in heaven, would we be disabled? Would we have autism? Would we be fibromyalgia? Would we even be bodies? Would we be spirits? Would we be? That's a question for philosophy, not to then be, mapped onto real people. The idea of philosophy was allowing you to think about ideas without you automatically mapping it onto reality. The dangerous part of conservatives is they think that because something sounds good in a philosophical conversation, we should now apply it to people. Pause. Just because it sounds good in a Discord conversation doesn't mean you then apply it to the population. Like, you have to be very focused that this is going to impact real people's lives. And so it feels like people are always just like fucking with people's lives, bro. Again, this is where the debate bro bubble really fails itself, because it's so focused on arguing about PDF files and all these other things without understanding how it applies to people. Again, we want to harm reduce. We want to reduce the harm. The question is, we're all debating on what harm is. What is harm? Okay? And I think that's the dilemma. Yeah, Chad says they don't see lives, they see numbers. Exactly. These are real people's lives. It's because they want to be like, oh, I'm logical, bro. People, if we were more logical, if we were more like AI, if we were more like robots, we would just make decisions regardless of our feelings, as if feelings are the reasons. Like, you're not being empathetic enough. You're trying to shut down your empathy, which evolution gave you as a tool for betterment. Your evolution, your ability, your empathy is a part of that evolutionary plus. Nature literally gave us the ability to empathize, and you're like, don't want that one. It literally makes us better people to empathize. Okay? It's just crazy. So we need to focus. And I think America fails so deeply on so many other issues that this is like a distraction. This just feels like so not the focus right now. We should be focusing on housing and clothing people, educating people. We should be focused on medical care. We should be focused on so many other things. We should be focusing on not supplying Israel with weapons to kill Palestinians. We should be focusing on so many other things. And right now we're focused on this. How is this not a distraction?
And just do it. Break it up into 5, break it up into 4, break it up into 3 if you have to, but go to the doctor 4 times instead of once, or 5 times instead of once. And for some reason, they insist that you put it all into the body, and maybe that's the drug companies that make more money that way. Maybe it's the doctors because they don't want to be, doing this so much. Maybe it's the doctors. They get maybe more money. Who the hell knows what it is? Don't do it. Get them broken into 4 or 5 visits. Do it 4 or 5. That means you have 20%, 25% what you're putting into the baby's body. It can only help. It can only help. And the other things I told you about, just the word tough it out. It's easy for me to say tough it out, but sometimes in life with a lot of other things, you have to tough it out also. Don't take...
Aren't you the guy who avoided going to Vietnam because of bone spurs? Not that anybody should have gone to Vietnam because it was unethical and evil. But didn't you avoid the draft by saying my feet hurt? Guess you didn't tough it out then.
Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. When the baby's born, they throw it at you. Here, give him a couple of Tylenol.
Oh my God. Bro, is RFK Jr. literally thinking, oh my God, just 3 more years of this? Because literally he is just like the old person at the family gathering. Oh, yeah. Repeats the same thing 4 times. Bro.
A shot. They give him a vaccine. And every time they give them a vaccine, they're throwing Tylenol. And some of these babies, they're long born, and all of a sudden they're gone. And it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside. There's no downside at all. And break up MMR. Break it up. It's practically a known fact that if you break it up, you're not going to have a problem.
Oh, my God.
But for years, we've been hearing how bad MMR is as a combination. And I'm very happy that you broke out chickenpox, because that was really a problem. And there are other things. It's interesting because there are other things, we were talking about it, other different drugs, pills that you take that we know are so bad and they don't take them anymore. But for some reason, with this, they keep taking it. Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it. You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe, but don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. And don't give it to the baby after the baby is born. And we have more than 3 years left. And I told Bobby and the doctors behind me, and they are so committed to this, I told them that this is the number one thing I want to do from you. And we have something else called Favored Nations, where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,000%, by 900, 600, 500, 1,200. We're going to be reducing drug prices at levels never seen. It's called Favored Nations. We're going to be paying what right now, we're like the garbage can for the rest of the world, and we have been for forever. We pay much higher for drugs than the rest of the world. We subsidize the rest of the world. We're not doing that anymore.
Ryan with the super chat, thank you so much, says this timeline, laugh emoji. Yo, this timeline. This is an exhausting, man. This is so exhausting. Holy crap, bro. He just keeps talking. Oh my God, look, he's just talking. He talks for another 15 minutes. He just keeps talking. Oh my God, he's going to talk for another 15 minutes. No, 20 minutes. He's going to talk for another 20 minutes. Holy shit, he's going to talk for another 20 minutes. Okay, take a 2-second break. I got to pee so bad. Let me take a 2-second break because I can't. Another 20 minutes. I'll be back. We're going to do this. Let me just tinkle. Okay, let me just at least do that because he's really taking the piss out of me right now. I'll be right back. Holy shit, bro. Oh my God. Oh, I'll be right back. God. Okay, I'm back. Ugh. All right, girls, let's do this. Okay. Here we go. Pausing the music. 1, 2, 3. Big pause, big pause. Here we go. Be good to yourselves. Be good to others. Be good to yourselves. Be good to others. Here we go.
And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's bigger than anything. I told the story the other night.
It's very big. It's very, Elon would know I'm very, very big.
That I was so proud in my first term that for the final year, drug prices went down 0.25%. And I was so proud. I said, why? I'm the first one to do it. I think it was 28 years, they said.
I told Elon, I'm the very first one. You've never had anyone just like me. I love being the first.
Drug prices went down from the beginning of the term to the end. And I was so proud. I called a news conference. I said, drug prices have gone down. First time it's happened in 28 years. You know what it was? 0.25%. I was so proud. Now we're going to have them go down from $100 a pill to $9 a pill.
Let's go, bro. We need lower drug prices, okay? We need lower drug prices. That shit's crazy expensive, okay? I remember one time before I found what's it called? There's this coupon system in Arizona that someone put me onto that literally saved me when I was uninsured. I went in to get my herpes medication and great medication, love it. But it literally was going to be like, God, they quoted me, guys. It was like, I think it was like hundreds of dollars. Even the pharmacist was like, girl, yes, GoodRx. Yeah, it's GoodRx. She literally was like, girl, you're not going to be able to afford this. I was like, holy shit, I can't afford that. She goes, you can deal with the outbreak without the medication, of course. It will be a pain, but if you get the medication, it will help you. And then they put me onto GoodRx and boom, I was able to afford my pills. But oh my gosh, it was so expensive. It's not necessary, but it's so helpful, but it's not necessary. But oh my God. And even my brother who has asthma, I'm always terrified for him because where he lives, they're always fucking out of inhalers somehow. And I'm like, y'all need to get your stock up, bro. And then they're expensive, right? There's so much that goes into this. It's like, I cannot believe how expensive things are in America. And they're sitting here focusing like, yeah, bring down drug prices. The question is, who's it going to come at the expense of? That's what I want to know, From
$1,300 for a shot of like an Ozempic or I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends that have fat. They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, look at to me. But they pay $1,300, $1,200, and they go to London and they pay $88. And they call me, they go, what's this all about?
Hasn't he made this speech or ever? Am I having deja vu? Has he not told us this story already? We already know this story. He's already told us this story.
We're subsidizing the rest of the world stupidly because there are a lot of stupid people in this country running things.
Aren't you the one running things?
And how big is that? But to me, that's nothing compared to autism. I see that gorgeous boy. I have a big present for him in the back. You bring him back. We're going to bring him into the Oval Office. I have the best present he's ever going to get, okay? A big one. I saved it for you, okay?
There's a joke here. I'm not going to make it, but there's a joke here. There's like a lot of jokes I can make right now, okay?
Because I heard you were coming. Look how beautiful he is. So that's it. There's nothing much to say. Don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, and don't give Tylenol to your child when he's born or she's born. Don't give it. Just don't give it. And we're going to have, I think, really, if you do all the things that I say, break it up. Just break it up. Break up the shots with the doctor.
Oh my God, he's so
MMRs,
annoying.
as I told you, separate. Chickenpox already separate. You do these things. I'm telling you, when I leave office, I don't want to have, it's going to be the kind of number that we're hearing where it's 1 in 32 or 1 in 10, because I've heard 1 in 10 also.
Is that a promise that you'll leave? Is that a promise that you'll leave office? Because at this point, I really don't know. And the fact that I don't know should tell you the state of America. The fact that we're not even sure he's going to leave office. Do you know what I'm saying?
And in California, it's really bad. I want it to be, let's get it back to maybe 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 or maybe none in 20,000.
You know what? If I think my parents and every MAGA conservative should move out of California. Y'all hate it so much. Move! But they can't because Orange County, San Diego, Riverside County, they're all Republican counties. And they know for a fact that they love living in California because you love the benefits of it. You love the benefits of that liberal state you all live in because it's nice, okay? And it's by the ocean. You spoiled, you know what I mean? PM, thank you so much for the super chat. Says USA are not subsidizing other countries. We make bargain wholesale prices with our healthcare systems. So like they're saying that they're going to pull support for other countries and then quote bring down our drug prices. Is that what you're saying? USA are not subsidizing other countries. We make bargain wholesale prices with our healthcare systems. Hold on. Did I miss? Is there two here? Wait, did you super chat twice or once? Did I miss it? It says you super chatted twice. If you did, thank you so much. But I want to make sure I didn't miss a comment. If you're, but the comment looks like the same comment. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss, see your chat if you sent one. Oh my God, I'm gonna sneeze. Yeah, I think like, obviously the issue here is like, I don't think this administration is willing to do anything that doesn't come at the expense of other people, right? Are they the same administration too that just destroyed millions of dollars worth of birth control?
And the only way you're going to do that, because this is artificially induced. This is induced by something. You don't go from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000, then to 1 in 10. That means you're taking something and some.
This just reminds me of endometriosis and rape, where like they don't like the statistics, so they're saying it's not possible. You know, it's like, I don't like the statistic, it's probably not possible. It's like, well, you know, you might not like it, but it might be true, but it may be not be true. You know, we would be less suspicious of everybody if everybody wasn't taught to be such fucking liars. You know what I mean? Oh, chances aren't they going to come for birth control? I'm telling you right now, if you've been thinking about getting sterilized, this is the time to do it, girl. We're going to the doctor. We are going to start that process because I was like, I am not risking it. Let's go. Let's get it over with because you know what I mean? Let's go. I'm getting this birth control out. I'm getting sterilized. We are not going to run the risk. Okay, if whatever the future holds, I do not need to worry about getting pregnant. That's for sure. You know, so if you've already been on that train, you already think that's where you're going. You know what I mean?
Something's wrong. And I feel very certain, and I know I'll be criticized. Someday they'll look back and
okay, no, I just sent once. I am a Canadian. I'm talking about our healthcare systems who pay large volumes for drugs and bargains the price. Oh, okay. Okay.
they'll say, well, it wasn't, but I think it will. I think we're going to have a tremendous, this is the most important thing. There's nothing more important than me. We cured inflation that Biden gave us. He gave us.
Did you? Because the dollar sucks right now. You sure you cured inflation?
So much inflation, the biggest ever in history.
We're not talking about the inflation in your ankles, dude. We're talking about the economy.
We got inflation done. We brought prices down. We gave you the largest tax cuts. All that stuff. It doesn't mean a thing compared to what we're doing today. This means everything.
Wait, chat says that I can't get sterilized without my husband's approval. Is that a joke? Wait, really? Are you in a country where that's true?
So we're going to save a lot of children from a tough life, really tough life. We're going to save a lot of parents from a tough life. Okay, how about a few questions? Let's just make it on this
Okay, great questions.
subject. This is so beyond as a subject
Oh, okay, you're joking. Okay.
that I'd rather not talk about, some nonsense on the economy. And I will say,
Oh, nonsense or the economy. Wow. He's like, I don't want to talk about anything else but this. Okay. But autism support is related to the economy, so it's kind of like the economy.
the economy is unbelievable.
Oh my
The stock
God.
market just hit another
Oh,
record
so he does want to talk about the economy.
high and all that stuff. This means more to me. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I have one on your announcement, one on vaccines that's also related.
Yes.
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism in acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know. Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked. I was saying something similar, not as strongly, because now facts are on our side. But I was saying it with Bobby 20 years ago, and I was attacked. I said, whoa, what was that all about? I had no idea. You get attacked. I don't know. The medical community, the drug companies, doctors, I don't know what it is.
You know, the more that I watch Seinfeld, and I have been rewatching Seinfeld, not that I support Jerry Seinfeld as he is a Zionist, but it really feels like a Seinfeld episode where George Costanza and Kramer and Jerry are like in charge, and Elaine and the four worst people you know are like in charge of everything, and they're just talking out their asses. I think the reason Seinfeld is so funny is because it really is a show about like the worst people. They're so deeply unethical, but what makes them so unethical is how much they lie. It's all lying, like lie. It's like the lies are so insane, but that's also kind of what's funny about it. That's why Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother was so like weirdly lovable. It's because it was almost like we got a thrill watching how many lies he could say. And I swear that's what's happening with this administration. It's like they're all getting a kick out of how much they can say and people believe them. It feels so similar to me. Like so similar. The lie just, it rolls off their tongue. Oh yeah, I wrote a movie once. I was in a movie. Yeah, I'm actually a doctor. And they're like, oh really, you're a doctor? And it's like, yeah. And then just people believe you because the world wouldn't assume you would lie about being a doctor. But then it's like, it's like, it feels like an episode of a sitcom. It feels so weird to me.
All I want to do, I don't care about being attacked. It doesn't matter to me. I believe that the numbers at the end of our term or shortly thereafter could be really phenomenal. I want it to go up just like it came down to this horrible level. 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I was told 1 in 10. I was told 1 in 12. Today I heard 1 in 31 if you add the girls and the boys together. It's crazy. And it was 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 20,000. It's not even sustainable for a country. You want to know the truth. And there are other places that don't have it. And they have things in common. And that's called medical research. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I'm curious, as you look at the trend lines,
Yeah.
how much of this is the causation of acetaminophen and how much is sort of better diagnosis, doctors, researchers having a better understanding of what is on the autism spectrum?
Do you want to do that? Sure, go ahead.
That's one of the canards that has been promoted by the industry for many years, that it's changed diagnostic criteria, better recognition. But there's been study after study done of that completely debunks that. One of them by.
So the study, he's saying it's a canard. He's saying it's like not real. He's saying it's been hoisted as this great reason, but it's not true. But it's literally math. It's literally a part of I don't understand how it could not be true that more people would get diagnosed in the same way that like there are more trans people and gay people because we're talking about it. It's like, this is like the illusion of like, this is like, I heard this quote that said, I don't know who said it, but they said, you might be the first person in your family to come out, but you're not the first gay person in your family. And that's so important. You might be the first diagnosed autistic person, but you're not the first person with autism. You're not the first autistic person. It doesn't work that way. Like, that's not how life works. It doesn't even make any sense, So it's just like this conversation about like, oh, this is actually the lie, but this is actually our lived experience as well. Like, both of these lived experiences could be true, but it makes more sense that like, look, if you just acknowledged my community, if you just used my community as a study, you could say, oh, Brittany's community was 30% autistic, and after she got diagnosed, it became 50% autistic. And the reason is because they watch Brittany and it gives them autism. Or it could be that Brittany was an autistic woman who didn't know, and when she realized it, people in her audience also realized, wait, I might be autistic, and then went and got a diagnosis, which then made it so Brittany's audience went from 20% autistic to 50% autistic, not because watching Brittany made them autistic, but because they got a diagnosis. Hence, more autistic people. Okay? So it's just like, what? Yeah, Chet says, I love how nobody was gay. If your grandparents were honest, ask them about it. Yeah, I love how they say, like, nobody was gay, nobody was trans. You do not make it safe enough for people to tell you what they're going through. Discord says you're making the frogs gay, Brit. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. But yeah, that's the problem that they're not understanding. And that's why it feels so interesting that right away he's like, Trump, let me handle this. Look at the way he came in, was like, Trump, I got this. What are you talking about?
The Mind Institute at UC Davis, University of California.
Woo woo, UC Davis?
But also it's just common sense.
It's common sense. Give me that study, bro.
Because you're only seeing this in people who are under 50.
It's common sense as well that there'd be more autistic people because they're getting diagnosed. What does common sense even mean here?
50 years of age. If it were better recognition or diagnosis, you'd see it in 70-year-old men. I've never seen.
You're so stupid. You are the stupidest person who's ever existed. You think our grandparents weren't autistic? We're telling you right now, they were hella fucking autistic. I'm 70 years old. I never seen old people have autism. You're fucking blind. They were also institutionalized. You're a fucking liar, bro.
This happening in people my age.
You're a fucking liar. All these fucking I'll tell you, you want to hear autism? Ever see old man collect stamps, collect army pins? Hell, what do you think that is? Old people, my dad, who can't even sleep if there's a singular smell in the house or a particular type of light. My dad, who's so fucking autistic, but like refuses to engage in a reality where that could be a thing. Okay, sure, buddy. Sure, all these old men with their fucking weird fashion sense, these old men with their fucking fedoras and their like hyperfixation on everything. Oh, please shut up. Shut up. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is the stupidest thing anyone's ever said in their whole life. I'm 70 and I've never seen an autistic person. You're so fucking dumb. Are you the autist and that's why you think Nothing cracks me up more than when the old people in my family go, "You're not special. Everybody does that." Nope, they don't. That's us. That's us. Like, I don't know how to explain to my parents. That's us. Like when my mom says everybody, everyone thinks they're gay. My dad goes, everyone thinks they're gay at some point. You sure about that, buddy? Everyone thinks they're autistic. Everyone thinks this is a universal experience. You sure about that, buddy? I have to say, there is a saying that if you're Googling, am I gay? You're probably gay. Or if I'm Googling, am I autistic? You're probably autistic. I'm not saying you are autistic or gay. I'm saying you could be. But it's a bit suspicious that you even thought about it. It's a bit suspicious that you even considered it. Maybe a little pansexual, maybe a little gay, But it's just like so funny that everyone's just like, that's just normal. That's what we all do. Are you sure about that? Yeah, Chet says your family designing machinery and thinking it's typical. My dad literally creating like designs in his head, thinking it's what everyone does. And I'm looking at him like, that's your autism. You put things in your head on paper and people pay you lots of money for it. And it's literally like, he didn't go to college. My dad is not a college graduate. My dad didn't even finish high school. And my dad made a very successful business in America with the designs from his own fucking head. And he goes, I don't know. And I was like, you have a fucking hyperfixation. When he was a little kid, my grandpa tells this infamous story, God rest his soul, about my dad sneaking into his workshop and building a gun from scrap. Like my dad built things from literal garbage and would just build things as a little kid, no help needed. And my parents are like, oh yeah, he was just a smart. And I was like, yeah, yeah, okay. Deville with the super chat says, tell me my dad born in 1950 who collected and cataloged sports trading cards for a decade wasn't autistic. I can't stand these guys. Bro, you think these boys who are autistic and love Pokemon trading cards aren't just the sons of men who also traded baseball cards? What are we talking about? Chaz in a cave with a box of scraps. Call him Tony Stark, baby. My dad, you know what I mean? The West Asian king in the cave. Building a fucking, you know what I'm saying? He about to be on the Marvel team, okay? This is what I'm saying. Like, please. We know when we see gamer boys and their hyperfixations and when we see them trading Pokemon cards, we're like, that's autism right there. You think we don't feel the same way about our grandpas and grandmas? When we look at them, we're like, that's autism. And maybe boomers don't think about it because their houses look like a fucking catalog of an autistic, like, I can't believe I love the TikToks of people who are like, my parents don't think they're autistic. And then it shows all of their collections. This is the wall for the very special trains. This is the wall for the very special glasses. When I walk into certain homes of boomers, I'm like, oh yeah, yep. Can't let go of anything because it's special, one of the kind. And you have all you people with collections, I'm looking right at you. Okay? Oh, you're a little weird and everyone in the neighborhood thinks you're just the quirky old man. No one quite gets you, but they think you're sweet and adorable. Got it.
Never seen a case of full-blown autism, and that means profound autism. I want to be.
Oh, so now he's attacking people with higher needs autism, and he's saying, oh, I'm talking about people with profound autism because that never existed before. I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I read the fucking Bible, didn't Jesus, I don't know, cure people with disabilities or have a relationship with people with disabilities? Weren't there people documented with disabilities all throughout history? Am I confused? Are disabilities like a new thing? Or is autism a new thing? Is being paralyzed a new thing? Or have there always been interesting, situations, biological experiences that people have been having since day one? Am I confused? You know what I mean? How do we figure out fucking your sister wasn't a good idea? Because, I'm pretty sure we figured out that wasn't a good idea because of the way y'all came out looking like you did. I don't know why people are acting like we didn't figure things out because humans were fucking weird and we had to figure out, probably shouldn't do that. Probably shouldn't do that. Rashad Crenshaw in the chat says conservatives have romanticized the past to the point where they think diseases just spawned last week. Literally. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Chet says, Brett, I think the reason you get deja vu is because he did it a few months ago back. He did say that a few months ago back, that autistic people don't become taxpayers. Yeah, they're repeating. We did this initially when we watched the first one. They're repeating a lot of what they said here again. It's like, girl, we watched the other one, Discord said, Brett, don't you remember when America was great and autism didn't exist? My bad, guys. I totally forgot. You're right. Again, I was talking about manga and anime and stuff with my partner, and I was like, why are these stories so profound and amazing? And a big part of it is that stories are profound and amazing. Our lived experience is a profound, amazing experience. And we really have used story to understand one another for thousands of years. And in every form of story that we have, it's always a story about people who are blinded to the truth and people who see the truth. And it's always going to be an argument between all of us. Who is the group who sees the truth and who's the group who doesn't? And the question I guess I pose to myself constantly is, if I already think I'm the person who sees the truth, what are the chances that that's true? Probably not as high as I think it is, right? Probably not as high. We live in bubbles. That's the whole point of the cave, right? It's the shadows on the wall. You think that's your whole reality, and it's not. Our perception is limited. And if we think this is all reality is, God forbid we just take our hands off our face. Move it away from your eyes so you can see. The dilemma is like we don't want to because we're comfortable, because it's too hard, it's uncomfortable, and also we're afraid to admit we don't have the answers. It takes a certain level of humility to really understand how little we know. And that's why I think I can, and I want you to take reassurance that the world has always been this way, that this is normal and this is a cycle and it will be this way again. And that's why I say take a deep breath and do good by yourself and by your neighbors, no matter who they are. Be kind to people, no matter who they are, because you're not good because other people are good. You're good for goodness sake, right? Die a good person because it's so hard to do that in the first place, and already understand that people will die evil. You don't have to be one of them, okay? So I don't want you to be not involved. I don't want you to let go of your neighbors. I don't want you to neglect. I don't want you to move into like a nihilistic perspective where you're like, nothing matters, dude. No, it is what it is, and therefore it matters. Life is what it is, and therefore it matters. Life is significant. It's not so insignificant that you can just give up on it, but it's not so significant that you need to be worried or fearful about it either. It is an appropriate amount of significant. So treat it with an appropriate amount of action.
Very careful. Headbanging, stimming, toe walking, nonverbal, non-toilet trained. I've never in my life seen a 70-year-old man who looks like that.
Autistic people are I think it's 3 times more likely to kill themselves and or be killed and or be neglected and or be institutionalized and or be targeted. We know these people exist because there's been documentaries about it. We know they existed. Guys, have you not seen the I've seen the documentaries. There are documentaries about working with people with autism who would have been 70 now. Who would have been 70 then? What are you talking about? They were institutionalized. They literally were abandoned by their families because their families didn't know what to do and nobody wanted to be honest that they had kids who were disabled. I cannot believe this is actually working on people. I just can't believe this is working on people. We know they were institutionalized. We've seen the documentaries. We've seen the videos. We've talked to family members. My own family members talk about it. Yeah, Rosemary Kennedy, his own auntie, right? Was his auntie directly? His own family did this to a woman. Holy shit, bro. They are literally fucking with us right now. They are literally lying to our face right the fuck now. Yeah, not to mention Bill Gates even said that he'd be diagnosed autistic now. Yes, I like that he's, listen to the list again. Listen.
I'm going to be very careful. Headbanging.
Okay, headbanging? Yes. Oh, sorry, I switched views. Headbanging? We got to figure that out. Fun fact. See, this is me oversharing because he's going to put me in a category. It feels good to hurt yourself because it releases. We're having the headbanging is also cathartic, which is why we have to stop it and give them a new way to seek a feeling of control and a new way for us to feel good. So it's weirdly grounding, and they don't understand that, okay? They don't understand the stimming is helping. And the headbanging is scary to see. We don't want them to headbang because there's consequences, but we need to get them the same feeling they get from the headbanging in a new and healthy way. Okay? And again, like, I know this sounds weird for people, like the hitting yourself, like to feel control. Yeah, like you think that looks like, oh, you're going crazy, but they're doing it because it's actually helping. Now, I agree, you don't want them to do it because there could be other damage, but that thing that's helping, that sensation we can get in other ways. Okay? So again, we want to move our self-harming into something that gives us the same stimulation we're looking for when we self-harm. Because that's why they don't get, it is helping. It's just, you know what I mean? It's not the exact tool we want to give people. And that's what's so frustrating to me. Yes, good example, Temple Grandin. Well, he's saying that Temple Grandin doesn't do the other things, but she does, like she did. Temple Grandin created that whole mechanism that suffocates her when she's overstimulated, which people thought was weird, but it actually helped her. Like, that's the thing, right? Is like her version of hitting or headbanging was being suffocated or being like smothered. That's what she did to help herself as an autistic person. So again, like that's the part that people aren't getting. It's like they're trying to communicate with you. We're trying to communicate with you and you're not accepting it because you don't like the way it looks. That's why I keep things private, because even me in this position of privilege, if I explain to you all the ways that I self-soothe and I find different ways to do it, you'd be like, oh my God, Brittany's crazy. I'm not crazy, bro. I'm just discovering shit you're not even willing to look at because you don't like the way it looks. And I'm trying to harm reduce in the process. I am trying to harm reduce in the process. I am not trying to actually self-harm. I'm trying to understand why this way of existing actually helps me feel better, you know? And that's why people suck, because you don't actually want to help us. You just want us to, quote, sit down, be quiet, and look good and don't fidget. You want us to look good while we're tormented inside of our brains, screaming for a release. This is what's so frustrating.
Stimming, toe walking, nonverbal.
Oh, toe walking. God forbid. Jesus Christ. Not the toe walking. Watch out, everybody. She's toe walking. Okay? Yeah, nonverbal and unable to go to the restroom. Yeah, we should talk about those things. But that exists in more than just autistic people. You know that's true. You know that's true. That's why they say, hey, guys, we're all going to probably be disabled as we get into our elder years. How many old people it's difficult for them to go to the restroom? The question is, can we have conversations about it without you stigmatizing it? You know, stigmatizing it. We need to have conversations.
I've never in my life seen a 70-year-old man who looks like that. You're only seeing it in
Wow, 8 billion people on the planet, but RFK Jr. doesn't have this lived experience, so I guess it doesn't exist. Teehee.
Kids. It's an epidemic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was hoping that you could clear up confusion for moms and dads across America, many of whom voted for you. There's a statement that was put out by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and in their statement, they write, acetaminophen remains a safe, trusted option for pain relief during pregnancy, and that's at odds with what you said and with what many of the experts say. How do you clear up this confusion?
That's the establishment. They're funded by lots of different groups. And you know what? Maybe they're right. I don't think they are, because I don't think the facts bear it out at all. They're fighting for something that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be fighting for. But here's the thing. There's no downside to doing, other than a mother will have to, as I say, tough it out a little bit. There's no downside to doing this.
Oh, brother. If he says tough it out one more time, okay?
It's not like, oh, if you do this, you're going to die. There's no downside. There's no downside to going over a 4-year or 5-year period or a 3-year period, or even if you space them out for 6 months. You space it out.
What is he on? What medication is he on? What pain relief is this man on? Tell him to tough it out. Because God knows he's on something. Ain't no way in his old privileged ass ways he's not taking some pills. Tell him to go cold turkey too. How about that? It's like the women that bragged that they didn't need any painkillers during pregnancy. Good for you, girly. Okay, I want him to tough it out too.
There's no downside. And that's why I will say the gentleman behind me, they have very strong views and they feel that we're right, but they'll have more research done over the next 2 months. I said, well, 2 months is a long time. A lot of people could be saved. And there's no downside to doing it. Everything I said, there's no downside to doing it. It can only be good. And I think you're going to see very good results. That's establishment stuff. And we've been reading that about a lot of things for years. And you know what's happened? We've gone from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 32 to 1 in 10. Think of it.
Let's be real. All these people are closeted homosexuals and they can't come out. They're trans, they're gay, they're all types of things. And they're mad, they're autistic for fucking sure. And they're mad about it and they don't want to admit it. And so they're mad at all of us for embracing it because we don't give a fuck and we still flourish and we're still cute as fuck. And they're mad about it. And I'm just saying, instead of shutting down Grindr every time you have the Republican National Convention, y'all should just own it. Y'all should just own it because honestly, your life could be so much better. All of our lives could be better. We could have such a good life together, but you're so guilted by your religion, by your belief, by your bubble, who knows, that you're like, I can't embrace this thing. Oh, this podcast I'm about to put out, y'all, get ready. There's this clip of Charlie Kirk talking to this gay guy he's like, how do you feel now that you left that lifestyle for Jesus? He's like, I'm free. I've never felt better. I'm so calm. Jesus has embraced me. And I'm just sitting here like, look, if you've organically come to a position in which you are no longer gay, we can talk about it. But then Charlie Kirk says, do you still have gay thoughts? And the guy said, yeah, I do, but I'm not going to act on it. Girl, just be gay. Just be gay. Like, there is literally no downside to being gay. There's no downside to being gay. Trust me, I've tried it with Elon. Very gay, very good. Love them toes. Listen to me right now. Be a little gay. I've made Trump into a guy from Jersey. I don't know, or a Jew. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Is that a Jewish accent? Is that a New York accent? Is that racist? Scratch that. I've been watching way too much Seinfeld. It's not my fault. I'm stimming. I'm mimicking. Ukulele. No. Echolalia. Listen, I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld, okay? Sorry, Larry David. Is Larry David a Zionist? I really want to like him, but I'm afraid he might be. I know Jerry Seinfeld is. I think Jerry Seinfeld recently said that the pro-Palestinian movement, no, he said the KKK movement is slightly better than the pro-Palestinian movement. Listen, this is not my fault. Yes. This is not my fault. This is autism. Guys, I'm disabled. This is autism. Don't come for me.
1 in 10 or 12 or 1 in 31. Think of it. 1 in 31 people, young kids, get autism? What is it, Jeff?
My question is about Leucovorin. You mentioned that as part of your plan. That is also a chemotherapy treatment. Have you been in touch with the drug companies to increase production about that? And I'm going to throw in my follow-up at the same time. Dr. Oz mentioned that this will be available with CHIP, children who are on CHIP. But the big beautiful bill reduced funding for CHIP and Medicaid by $1 trillion over the next 10 years. Are you concerned that that will impact your ability to get this drug out?
I'll explain it to you in a second, but please go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leucovorin is not a chemotherapy, but it is a vitamin given with chemotherapy sometimes. And the idea here is that the folic acid receptor in the brain is blocked by some antibody response. It might be 20, 40, 50% of kids with autism. And Leucovorin will bypass.
True. Chaz says Jerry Seinfeld literally dated a high schooler. Very true. And everybody just watched it happening. So much for protecting the kids. Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld is a disgusting man, bro.
That blocked receptor. And that's why so many doctors are probably seeing so much clinical improvement on kids with Leucovorin.
Oh, yeah, Larry David did. He wrote an article about having Hitler dinner with Hitler to make fun of Jon Stewart, to make fun with Jon Stewart, my dinner with Hitler. Yeah, but is he pro the genocide? That's the question. We're going to need people to be anti the genocide in order for me to support them. That's kind of my standard right now. If I can't get you to be anti-genocide, we're going to have a problem.
So are you going to increase production?
Yeah, we've been in touch with the companies, and they are prepared to ramp up production, and we actually talked to them about a month ago.
And on your second part of your nasty question, the number is that the great big beautiful bill, which is the greatest, I think one of the best things ever passed in the history with the tax cuts.
Oh, it was Bill Maher, not Jon Stewart. I was going to say it doesn't sound like Jon Stewart, but I couldn't remember. Bill Maher. Okay, I couldn't remember because I remember that happening, but I don't remember it being Jon Stewart, but I wasn't sure.
And regulation cuts and all of the things it does, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, all of it does. It also gives $200 million, as just explained by Dr. Oz. And I'd like you to explain that, to exactly what you're saying.
The Big Beautiful Bill actually increases Medicaid spending projected over the next 10 years by.
Wait, what does this chatter mean? You said all children are now assessed, screened for neurodevelopmental conditions like multiple times before they are in school. What does that mean? What does that mean? Scanned how? Like for what? What does it encompass? Because I know there are tests they do, but like in what? You're not saying for autism or ADHD or something like that, right? You're saying like for something else?
By $200 billion. There's also a $50 billion Rural Health Transformation Fund, which will allow a lot of these programs to get in the rural parts of the country that the president and Congress are handing to governors to start distributing those grants that have already gone out. The money.
I really just need them to focus on what's important. Can we get hot Cheetos with the same flavor and taste, but vegan and without the red 40 dye? Can we please lock in and focus on what we really need to figure out? Can I get hot Cheetos with the same amount of texture and flavor, please? Well, they're vegan and without the red 40 dye. Please make it happen.
They will be allocated by the end of this calendar year. And I want to point out that the ability of NIH to do research that feeds and hands the ball to the FDA, which then can change labeling to allow Medicaid programs in states to fund this program, will ensure that the things that President Trump and Secretary Kennedy desire are financially affordable.
Apparently, I Googled it. Dr. Oz is technically a physician. I say technically.
For the families around America.
You mentioned CHIP, sir. That's why I asked that question. You mentioned that CHIP would fund this for children.
Well, most of the kids are on Medicaid, probably 43% on Medicaid, another 8-10% on CHIP, and all the programs in general are being evaluated. Most of what the One Big Beautiful Bill was seeking to do was to remove fraud, waste, and abuse. But the programs themselves should stay financially intact for the people for whom they were designed, and in this case, for children.
And the only thing we cut, so that's $200 billion.
Chad said demonizing red 40 also plays into the fear mongering around autism and ADHD. Yes, but in Europe, I can't get red 40 dye, girls. I live in Europe. They won't let me have hot Cheetos. And apparently it's around the red 40 dye. So somebody make it work. Somebody get it to Europe. That's why I'm asking. I don't live in America. I live in Croatia. And I can't get hot Cheetos here.
Positive. The only thing we cut was for fraud, waste, and abuse, of which there was a lot in this country, and nobody minds that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you said that there is no reason to give newborn babies hepatitis B vaccines. But hepatitis B can be contracted not just through sexually transmitted diseases, it comes from needles to open wounds. So when you say you feel, is that appropriate to be telling?
I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think they should wait till they're 12 years old. Yes, please.
Mr. President, thank you all for being here. You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines. Would you like other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out like MMRV?
What is this again?
You've been talking.
Speak up, please.
Sorry. You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines.
Right, correct.
Would you like the other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out like MMRV?
I would say yes, but that just is, for me, it's a lot of common sense involved in this. It's a process, but we're looking, but it should at least be given separately. Now, it's possible that you can reduce them and give it, I'd give them in small doses, but it's possible maybe in that particular case, the MMR wouldn't work in small doses, but you can certainly give them as separate shots. It's been proven to be very safe when you give them in separate shots instead of mixing. So I don't think there's any reason to do that. Do you agree with it? I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion. I don't think there's any reason to do that. So it's been proven to be safe when you break them up. But MMR by itself, I've heard bad things about it for many years. Yes, please.
Is the spectrum too broad, in your opinion? For research purposes, you are dealing with a population of children who might have social boundary.
Oh, chat says there are tools such as the Parents Evaluation of Development Status, PEDS, that assesses children for neurodevelopmental conditions such as ADHD, autism, which is also used to screen kids in the UK. I wonder if I had been screened with that, would they have diagnosed me? Because like in the US, we are not all getting the same care. In the US, there is no standardized version of care. Remember, people can have babies at home. They can go to their doctors. Their doctors can be very conservative and won't give them necessarily the same expectation of care. In Florida, they just made it so you don't need to get vaccinated to go to school, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, there is something to be said about, again, a standardized version of care. It's scary, right? Because you want to live in a world where you have a baby and you feel like you have the right as a parent to treat that baby with the dignity and respect it deserves. And at the same time, You want to make sure you understand that you probably don't know that much about raising your own baby, which is really scary. I think it is a scary world to believe we don't know what's best for our child, because sometimes we do know what's best. And it's because we don't have a society and a community we can trust. We don't know how to give that child, we don't know how to give people the power over our child. And you should be afraid, but you shouldn't move on fear. You should be cautious, but you shouldn't act unnecessarily, because it could harm people more, right? So, I talk about this a lot with my friend who underwent psychosis, weed-induced psychosis, and how their family really rallied. And I remember we were at the hospital, okay, because I drove in to help. And we took my friend to the hospital, and the doctor evaluated my friend and then took us aside privately and said, hey, it's lockdown season. If you talk to this person that's going to interview your friend and you answer the way you answered to me, your friend's going to be taken against your consent, basically. They're going to be taken to a facility, and they're going to be locked into a facility at an unknown location somewhere in Southern California, and you'll have no access to them because it's COVID. They can't take visitors. Your friend, I can't be accountable for your friend once they're gone. And I said, hold up. We'll take my friend back home. We'll work with private doctors. We'll try to figure it out. We're in a very privileged position. We can do that. So we took my friend home, and we got in touch with all of the doctors we knew. We contacted personal therapists. We made a bunch of calls. We got them on anti-psych meds. We did all of the work necessary, and it was the best thing that ever happened. And to this day, it's one of the best decisions we all made as a unit. And I'm grateful every day that that doctor pulled us aside and warned us, because I would have been so terrified for my friend, given the statistical probability that, honestly, you are not treated well in these facilities. Being in a place where your family and friends don't have access to you is never a good thing. Okay? Being trapped, and then my friends are already in psychosis thinking the world's trying to kill them. They already think the government's trying to kill them. How is that going to help to be put in a facility where they're then actually the government is trying to literally keep them away from family and friends? How is that helpful? Right? How is that literally helpful? That's why I say America is so fucked up. Guys, in other countries, they don't do this to people necessarily. In some countries, they don't necessarily, treat you like you're crazy, even though you're kind of you know what I mean? They don't punish you for going through something. Not always, not everywhere, but in some places, apparently they don't automatically just assume the worst of you. And that's why I say, we need to reevaluate the way we treat people who are going through it. And this happened when I've seen this with people who think people are being Karens. Yes, a lot of the time people are being Karens. But some of the time I've seen videos of people literally going through psychosis on the internet, and people are like, oh my God, what a Karen. That's psychosis. That's psychosis. That's not a Karen behavior. And the fact that we don't know the difference, I understand it, but we are hurting people. That's why I caution us from being is this person in psychosis, or what is this? That's why I did make a video about that lady who had who was in love with her psychologist or psychiatrist. Yeah, I already knew what that was. I'm not going to pile on this lady. You know what I mean? The world's already doing it because you're stupid. And then because you're stupid, you're going to hurt people more. You're going to stigmatize and add to it. Okay. And I get it. We have to be very careful. We don't know. We're uneducated. In many ways, I shouldn't even use the word stupid. It is the ableist term. I don't know. We're trying to figure out what words to use that make sense, how to communicate what we're saying. But we have to be cautious, we have to be cautious,
Difficulties. And then you have children who are, going to grow up to be adults in diapers. What do you think?
We don't know how broad the spectrum is. We don't know exactly where it starts and where it ends, but we do know what we're going through. We're going through some very serious trouble, and we know autism. I mean, it could be bigger, it could be small, a little bit smaller, but the number is unacceptable. And the number, the way it's come down, because the spectrums remain the same, the number, the way it's come down is just unacceptable, meaning come down to that level of 1 in 10, 1 in 12, 1 in 31.
Mr. President, medical professional.
Go ahead in the back.
Mr. President, this question is more directed towards Secretary Kennedy. It was talked about that we're just kind of finding out about the fact that babies are affected this way. Is there a concern that information is being suppressed right now within HHS, and could an investigation perhaps be launched seeing any more?
Well, I think information has been really not given out very freely over the years, absolutely. And I think that's by drug companies and maybe doctors, but I certainly think that over the years. I think this is a different group. We have a lot of information. And that information, I mean, it's the information that we have that we're making these statements. And I'm making them out front, and I'm making them loud, and I'm making them strongly, not to take.
If you're going to be loud and proud, you might as well be gay. Okay. Let's be loud, proud, and gay. There's so many potentials. He has so many opportunities here. Okay. Chad said this. She said it was for RFK. He answered. He's like, I am now RFK. He's like, I will now answer this. He's like, do you have a question for the doctor? I got this. I know what to do. You know? Ugh.
Tylenol, not to take it. Just don't take it unless it's absolutely necessary.
He loves to say that, bro.
There's not too many cases where that will be the case. And again, what's the worst? The worst is nothing can happen. It's very positive. That's a positive thing. But I don't believe I don't actually believe that's possible. I think the results are going to be amazing. I want to see amazing results by the time I leave this beautiful building. And
there he goes again, saying he's going to leave the building. Just like he said, he wasn't going to have anything to do with Project 2025, but here we are. I can't believe him.
I will consider this. I believe, with the wars, I've stopped 7 different wars. I've saved millions of lives. I've done a lot of things. This will be as important as any single thing I've done because I know ladies, beautiful ladies just like this that are going through.
Beautiful ladies. They're so beautiful.
The same thing. And it's not easy. And I admire you for being able to do it. But I admire him too. I wish I had a face that looked like that. If I looked like him, I would have been president a long time ago.
Is widely used in other countries too. As you make this announcement, do you expect your decision may affect
I hope they
countries?
follow it, yeah. I hope they follow it. Yeah, other countries are, still Tylenol. Some countries don't. I mean, I hear Cuba, now, again, you'll have to check this out, but I hear Cuba doesn't have it because it's very expensive. And they don't have the money to have it, or they don't want to spend the money to have it. They don't have Tylenol. And I hear they have essentially no autism. So you'll have to check it out. Yeah, Brian.
Medical professionals have warned for decades.
No, not you. You're CNN. You're fake news. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, girl, damn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to go back to the Amish community, if I can, just for a second. I recently saw a man from Minnesota, an Amish man from Minnesota, on a podcast, and the host asked him what the rates were for like ADHD and autism, and he had no idea about ADHD, didn't know that it existed, and certainly didn't know of any cases. What are they doing?
It doesn't exist with the Amish community, and they don't take all of this junk. It doesn't exist. That tells you, doesn't that tell you? That's like certain countries where it doesn't exist and they don't take it. Would you like to make a comment about that, Mark?
The Amish population is a very mixed group, so there's a subset that take vaccines, a subset that does not, and we know they have very low rates of chronic disease all across the board.
According to Al Jazeera, because I was curious, Al Jazeera is saying that what he said about Cuba is not true, that they do recognize autism, that the women can get their pharmaceutical needs met, and according to the 2022 study, Cuba had an autism incidence of 2 to 4 per 10,000 children in some settings. So where do you think he hears things? This is Al Jazeera. I'll link it in the chat. Where do you think Trump gets his information? You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Figure out. Where does he get his information? Who says somebody's got to be saying something to him. And he hears it and he just rolls with it. He's got it. You know what I mean?
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Should the establishment media show at least some openness to, trying to figure out what the causes of autism are?
I wish they would, yeah.
And why are they so close-minded?
Well, look, it's not only the media, in all fairness, it's some people. When you talk about vaccines, they go crazy. And, I'm a big supporter of vaccines. I got a certain vaccine approved in 9 months.
Oh, Discord said from common sense, Britt. Of course. He gets all of his knowledge from common sense. Man, I wish I was as commonsensical as him.
It would have taken from 5 to 12 years. I'm very proud of it. A lot of people think it was one of the greatest things I've done. And some people think, mostly Republicans, actually. I'll tell you, the Democrats think they think Operation Warp Speed was one of the greatest things any president has done, any president. It's, we're very proud of what happened. We got hit with something that came from a place that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. Those things take place and you're very unpleasantly surprised. But no, I'm a big believer in vaccines, the polio vaccine, big believer in vaccines. I know Bobby and you guys have it out a little bit, but he's a believer in vaccines too. But I've seen how great vaccines can be, how incredible they can be. So I'm a believer, yeah.
I'm a believer? Is that what he said? I'm a believer? You know who else was a believer? Anne Frank. I believe that was in her journal, if I remember correctly, from school.
Yeah, please.
You're commenting about MMR and hepatitis B, and you said those were your suggestions, but have you spoken with Secretary Kennedy about actually making those changes?
I have. I've spoken to all the doctors about it, and doctors that are not here right now. I've spoken to many doctors about everything we're talking about. And the Tylenol has started to be spoken of over the last period of time, but we've been doing the research. A lot of what they've been speaking about comes from right here, by research done by these people. And I just say it again: don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. And don't give it to your child after your child is born. And do all those other things, little things. Just spread out your visits, et cetera, on the vaccine. And I want to thank everybody. This is a very important day. Thank you very much.
He's like, bye, bitch. Jimmy Kimmel. Fuck Kimmel right now. Focus. Just kidding. He's back on. He's back on the air, bro. Shout out to all the Disney adults that, ended their subscriptions. I'm proud of you guys. Free speech. All that jazz. Damn, what a crazy fucking shit show was that. That was crazy. This week has been like the week of distractions. This week has been crazy. Girl. All right, take a deep breath. I want to move us through these autism-related and/or content creators' reactions and interviews with parents with autistic kids. Again, as an autistic person myself, I just wanted to make sure that I also was talking, because I noticed that a lot of the people who are giving opinions aren't autistic. They're just parents with autistic kids, though. I would argue if your child has autism, you should probably get reassessed or assessed in case you might be. And that would make a lot of sense because it tends to be genetic. Okay. Here's Kaylin had a reaction from Love on the Spectrum.
I think we found an answer to autism. How about that?
They really said more pregnant people are taking Tylenol now than they did before. Also, more kids and adults are being diagnosed with autism now than they did before. Because of that, Tylenol causes autism. But just because two things rise at the same time doesn't mean that one causes the other. For example, shark attacks and ice cream sales both go up in the summer. That doesn't mean that ice cream makes sharks want to attack you. Science needs strong, repeated, and controlled studies before you can announce anything as fact. And those studies haven't happened yet. And on top of all of that, the Trump administration is suggesting that the drug leucovorin can be used to treat some autism symptoms. But again, the few studies supporting this are way too small and way too short in duration to decide that this drug actually helps. When leaders toss out half-baked claims, it's the autism community who pays the price.
I think we found an answer.
Okay, so that was one. Do you guys know Dr. Rubin? He's an allergy specialist, and I love his TikToks, and I just like his personality overall. He's like a sweet bean. Do you know him?
Only good happen. But with Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. And if you can't live, if your fever is so bad, you have to take one, because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you take instead? It's actually, there's not an alternative to that. And as you know, other of the medicines are absolutely proven bad. I mean, they've been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right? And they've been proven bad.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rubin, and holy cow, folks, that was a disaster of a press conference. President Trump went on for about 10, 11 minutes with various falsehoods, anti-vaccine fear-mongering talking points, and then talked about Tylenol use during pregnancy and saying that nobody should take it when there's no substantial evidence that the recommendation should actually change. Yet, the NIH has created this Autism Data Science Initiative, awarding about $50 million towards research endeavors. The FDA is changing the drug monograph to recommend leucovorin, which is folinic acid, to treat autism spectrum disorder when the studies are limited and only to a certain subset of patients with autism spectrum disorder. This is completely getting out of hand, and there were a ton of anti-vaccine talking points sprinkled throughout. It's going to take me time to be able to debunk all of it. I will be making regular posts about this, as well as on my Substack. So if you want to learn more and get evidence-based information out there, feel free to follow me on those platforms. But no matter what, we should not be blaming women for what is going on with autism spectrum disorder. Do not be fear-mongered into what they are saying right now. It is completely off-base, and people who have autism spectrum disorder matter, and they should not be used as political pawns or talking points. We should be having more understanding, acceptance, and learn more, not have this be fear-driven.
Exactly. I say it all the time, like, fear is the root of all evil. If you do something out of fear, okay, you're probably going to make the wrong decision. Just like when you do something when you're desperate. Do something because it's the right decision. Okay, do something because it makes the most sense with the information you have in the moment, right? Now, something that was going around that I thought was interesting was sort of the interviews with parents. So I wanted to highlight a couple of them just to see what people were saying on the other side, sort of. Though I haven't watched all of these through, so I'm not sure exactly what we're about to watch, except that they are parents with children with autism.
A Methuen mother has long wondered what caused her son's autism.
But as the BBC's Mike Sullivan tells us, she's not accepting the White House explanation.
Time flies as a new parent, milestones coming and going, flipping faster than the photos can come.
One day after his 4th birthday.
That's when it all slowed down for Hillary Steele.
He had fewer words at like 15 months than he should have had.
Her son Cole was diagnosed with autism, the why always looming overhead.
I tried to not consume myself with that because I had another baby at home.
The Trump administration now announcing a link between Tylenol usage during pregnancy and an increase in autism.
You've had Tylenol with 2 different children during pregnancy?
3.
She needed it to battle hormone migraines. Her other 2 children do not have autism.
I don't want to scare moms until we have more information, but I would hope that they would take this information and maybe be cautious.
Her belief is autism is caused in the womb, potentially by a cocktail of factors.
Maybe there's a little bit of a genetic factor, and then you add in whatever. If you add in Tylenol, there you go. The cup can't hold anymore.
Steele is big on research. She says her other children have taken part in autism studies at Boston Children's Hospital, and she tried to get her son's spinal cord blood used in a study at Duke.
Show me the research. Show me the safety and efficacy of any product.
In Methuen, I'm Mike Sullivan, WBZ.
It's interesting because as parents, you're really put into this really difficult situation about whether or not people should experiment with your kids. And also all of the discovery we have came from experimentation. But I caution us from being eager to experiment on our family members. Not that you can't volunteer or make it happen or do it ethically, but I'm deeply concerned with the way that we have used brown and black bodies, gay bodies, disabled bodies. We've used so many people's bodies against their consent in order to, quote, experiment. And it terrifies me. And I don't want to move in fear, so I want to move in good data. And I think if you're kind and compassionate, we can talk about it. So if you guys don't know, the reason, the place that I got diagnosed was I was a part of a study of autism in women. It was an inclusive study, included gender non-binary people, trans women, cis women. And it was a study done by 2 doctors out of New Mexico. And I'm really excited for them to publish their findings. But it was the point of the study was to also help curate a test that is inclusive to AFAB people. And so I went through a diagnostic process through this this facility. And what was interesting is like I had a few people in my life I recommended it to at the time when it was open, when the study was open. And a few people I know got rejected. They weren't, because what we did is they tested us 3 tests before we could qualify for an appointment and an interview. And then we took 6 other tests or something. And so it was like a huge total of testing that we did. But the friends and family that I had, I was like, hey, you should just see if you qualify. They didn't qualify, but I did. Okay, the people in my life who took the tests, let's say the tests were like a 1 out of 100, they would get like a 24 and I would get like 100, or like a 98, so the testing was obvious. And so they were like, okay, yeah, we'll interview with you, because obviously they're not going to interview every person who's obviously not even hitting the qualifier. So it was kind of reassuring that they were serious, because I told them during my interview, I'm very serious about a diagnosis. I'm a public figure. I'm very serious about the things I do in my life. I need to know this diagnosis is right. I cannot be, given a diagnosis that's not correct. Like, I know that happens, and I don't have time for it. It was really amazing. It was a great experience. It was very cathartic. They were very kind and compassionate and patient. Everything was just a really good experience. My partner also had to participate. They had to write an essay basically about living with me, being with me, seeing my habits, what it's like being with me. It could either be a live-in partner and or your parent, and my parents weren't going to do it, obviously. So I had my partner do it. And that was really a good experience. It was like a really amazing experience. You know what I mean? And I'm just grateful for it. I'm grateful that another autistic woman I asked her for help, and she was like, hey, I know of this facility that's doing a study right now. And she's the reason I even got a hold of it. So it's like, it takes community effort, to get people the right diagnosis, So I'm just very lucky. I came in at the right time and was able to get diagnosed and get the answers that I needed. How old were you, Brittany? I just got it done, 35 last year. Before I turned 36. Oh, so I guess it wasn't how long ago did I get diagnosed? Hold on. Where's my podcast? Why don't I remember these things? I got diagnosed at 35 because my video is called Getting Diagnosed Autistic at 35. But I'm 36 now. 9 months ago. But I posted this video. Yeah, that makes sense. I posted this video in 2024, December. I was diagnosed in November of 2024, I think. Because I sat with it for a second. So yeah, I think I was diagnosed November 2024. Yeah, that makes sense. So I was 35. Here's the video here. If you guys want to watch it, I'll go ahead and link it for you guys. You guys can check it out. But yeah, like what a great experience it all was. But also, had they not diagnosed me, I would have probably gone for an ADHD diagnosis as well, because I'm pretty sure I'm ADHD. And that's the thing, is like it's trial and error. You got to figure it out, and you got to figure it out with your community, and you have to make an effort to seek out doctors that, you know, you can see their internal biases and prejudice. Because like just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you don't have bias or prejudice. We know that. We know that because the way medical professionals have experimented on people. We know that, you know? We know that. Wait, did you say I had more mommy muscles in this video? Let me see.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the pod. My name is...
Yeah, you can definitely see it, bro. I got to work out again. I've really been neglecting my muscles. Yeah, you could see it. I definitely was working out more during this time. Yeah, good times. Good times. When the bed was still in the background, bro. Let me tell you. Okay, 2 more videos I want to show you. Let's do this video. Another interview with parents. Recent. This was 17 hours ago, so right after the announcement.
We've heard what the White House has had to say about autism, but what do the parents of those with children on the spectrum have to say?
It feels like a slap in the face. As mothers, I think that we always question ourselves on what we could have done differently. How did this happen?
Which is not new. Mothers have always been blamed for how their children have been produced, which is ironic since the sperm is also responsible. So it's just interesting who they blame. Misogyny, patriarchy. It's always the woman, the woman, the woman. It's like when they used to say that women couldn't give their husbands sons when it literally is dependent on the sperm. You know what I'm saying? Like they literally blamed women for not producing sons. Like, what are you doing? Why are we even blaming anybody, dude? It's not even up to us. It's just nature. It's what happens.
Bean lives in the St. George area and is a parent of a child with autism. She said she did not take Tylenol while pregnant. Because of that, she said she questions the assertion by the White House that acetaminophen.
Okay, so that's the question. Did she have to take Tylenol to get an autistic child, or did her mother have to take Tylenol? Or is Tylenol in the water? Is it in the air? Are they making the frogs gay? Answer my questions.
Also known as Tylenol.
That's my Alex Jones impression. Thank you.
Associated with a higher risk of autism. Bean created a grassroots effort in southern Utah 3 years ago to start an annual walk with autism. The spring event has drawn hundreds to raise awareness and funds for those with autism. She says it's a complex disorder that a large majority of studies say has multiple genetic and environmental causes.
Oversimplifying it to a single cause undermines public trust, distracts from the real science, and diverts attention from the broader evidence-based research.
I mean, my response to it is, really? Like, that is my response. It is like a gasp of like, why are you doing this to us?
Also a parent of the child on the spectrum, Heidi Kershaw has done a lot of work in Utah as a founder of the Global Autism Coalition.
So this is just a symptom of a gut feeling, and it's very condescending to mothers in particular. This is saying your child would be neurotypical if you had decided not to take a Tylenol. If you decided to just sweat through that headache, your child would not have autism spectrum disorder.
President Trump said taking Tylenol is, quote, not good for pregnant women, and the government is recommending women limit it during pregnancy. But Kershaw said it is based on a theory that has already been disproven in a study of 2.5 million children. Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. said the FDA has reviewed studies that showed no association. He said they will continue studies into the topic.
I just want answers, but I also know people aren't ready for them. We're not even ready to accept that you've never talked to God, but here we are. You're not eating the body of Christ when you eat that little cracker, guys. I know, I was confirmed. I've eaten it too. I get it. But here we are. Again, we are trying to live on a planet with all of us who have very unique perceptions of what it means to be in reality. And we're all debating it. The thing is, and this is what's so cool about being a person, is you can believe in a God and be functional. You can actually believe you have magical powers and be functional. That's what's so interesting about people, is you can have none of the right information and still be somehow functional. You can drive well, go to school well, be a participant in society, pay your taxes, do all the things, have a relationship, love people, raise people. Like, what's crazy about being a person is you don't have to know much to be completely functional. And because we don't need to know much to be functional, you know? That's why I say, like, you don't even have to, like, know, like, that's why people are always shocked. Like, people will say, oh, it's a privilege to not pay attention to politics. It's also not a privilege. Like, I don't know how people don't get that. It can be a privilege to not have to pay attention, and or you never have to pay attention to how the world is fucking you over to actually live a good life. That's why they say ignorance is bliss. Because you're still getting fucked over, but you don't have the privilege to know you're getting fucked over. So you end up living like a pretty okay life until you die, even though you're struggling because you don't have the privilege to actually pay attention to politics. Because it's almost like it's a privilege to even be able to understand what's happening in politics. You have to be educated enough to even understand it. So you have to pay attention to it is a privilege. But then to not pay attention to it can be a privilege because you're so fucking privileged in society, you don't have to because you know you're going to be the benefactor of anything that happens. It's like poor people who are uneducated are never benefited from not paying attention to politics, but also don't have to pay attention to politics to live a relatively okay life. It's a very confusing, like, catch-22. So I just want you to remember that, like, the catch-22 of existing is you really don't have to know much, which is why you all keep having babies. Or we all keep having babies. I don't mean to put it on you guys. But, like, we all keep making babies because we are not actually aware of how significant it is to bring a full consciousness into the universe. Like, we're not even thinking about it. Most babies aren't even planned. They're just be fucking. Okay? All right, let's go out with this TikTok.
Out that Tylenol, acetaminophen, causes autism when taken while pregnant. So I'm dumbfounded because I never took Tylenol while I was pregnant and I do have an autistic son. So here are 3 things I think may be what caused my son to develop autism. Number 1, chocolate chip Little Bites. I did eat these for breakfast like probably 99% of the time.
It's because they're not vegan. I'm telling you right now, if you're not vegan, you're going to cause autism in your kids. Watch out, meat eaters. Listen, as a person who's a carnivore myself, I've wondered if I put down the steak, would I be this autistic? Sometimes I'm concerned my autism comes from the very thing that I love to consume. The buttocks of a cow, the tail of an ox, the rib of a woman. I'm just kidding.
It's literally all I could stomach. They are straight, I don't know, like lard, processed sugars, chemicals. They're so delicious. I do feel like this one's pretty high in the sus list. Number 2, I'm gonna say just like being a bitch my whole pregnancy. I was just the biggest bitch. I gained 100 pounds. I was in an abusive marriage. It was really bad because it was COVID. I actually found out I was pregnant January 1st of 2020. And I was like just completely miserable, depressed. So I'm gonna
be like, if her kid is gay and autistic, then definitely because she was being a bitch. That's how you make gay sons. The bitchier your mom is, the gayer you come out. I've heard that.
Just like being a bitch, just like karma. Number 3, I'm gonna go with his dad, you know, via genetics, who is extremely autistic. Today we found out that Tylenol, acetaminophen, causes autism when taken while pregnant. So I'm dumbfounded because I never.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's probably the dad being autistic, maybe the genetics of it all. Anyways, a little humor on our way out. Okay, a little humor on our way out. Oh my God. That's it for today, girls. Do we have any comments or questions on this? Like anything you want to get off your chest in regards to this before we head out? I'm going to finish up the podcast for today. It's going to be so good. You just get ready. Chesa, is this satire? Yeah, she was being sarcastic. It's a sarcastic TikTok. She's saying the point is that my kid's probably gay. Wow. My kid's probably autistic because the dad's autistic. And probably gay because the dad's gay. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows, really? But yes, it's, you know. Oh, man. What are we going to do? What are you going to do with all these people, you know? I just want you to take care of yourselves because I know the world can feel really suffocating. And as somebody who suffered so much from the world feeling so suffocating, guys, take on the burdens you can carry and nothing more. And if we all did that, the world would be a better place. But we keep taking on burdens that aren't ours for good or bad. Look, RFK Jr., this burden isn't his and he shouldn't be the one carrying it because he doesn't know what to do with it. He doesn't know how to be responsible with autistic lives. This burden of helping autistic families should have been done by somebody who's probably honestly autistic. And honestly, this is why representation matters. Because a person who's not afraid of being autistic, a person who is happily autistic, joyfully autistic, should have been the one in charge of helping autistic people. But when you have somebody who's resentful, fearful, who's neglectful when it comes to the nuance of this topic, they're going to use fear as a way to control the narrative, you know? And this is why it would have been so great had somebody who genuinely is joyfully autistic would have been doing this, you know? What are you going to do? Chet says off topic, but I guess there's a new Kanye documentary. And I was also wondering if you're interested in the Charlie Sheen doc. Didn't know about the Charlie Sheen doc, though I did see him in the media recently and I wondered why. And I did hear about the Kanye doc. You know what? I'm very interested in both of them. Might figure out a way to review them for members, YouTube, and or maybe the Discord. I don't know. I'll decide, but I would be interested in that. That sounds interesting. Or maybe watching it on my own and talking about it. That sounds interesting, you know? Chess says focus on your locus of control and do something to make it a little bit better. It'll make you feel more in control and it will help people. It will also help people, you know? Chess says join late. What announcement did he make? Sorry. Trump announced that taking Tylenol while pregnant makes your kids autistic, which, you know, doesn't that mean we should have a lot more autistic kids though? Like, doesn't that mean that we should have like everybody should be autistic? You know? Yeah. Chat says, can I suggest a video? Guys, you can always suggest videos. It goes on the list or it doesn't go on the list, but you don't have to ask me. You could just request it. But like, I already have like 1,000 videos in my queue. So, you know, maybe I'll get to it. Maybe I'll read it, but you can always just post it. You don't have to ask me permission, you know? But, you know, I prioritize member requests and Discord requests. Those get priority. So Discord has a thread. If you guys join the Discord, I will go to that thread every day before stream and see like what videos I might want to cover, you know? Okay, let me double check something here before I head out. Okay. All right, I'll see you again tomorrow. I'm waiting on a response from somebody for a possible collaboration tomorrow. We have technically agreed that tomorrow is our collab day, but with the time zone differences and everything, I'm kind of concerned that they won't be able to make it for some reason. But most likely, I think I have a collaboration tomorrow. That will be exciting. You can join the Discord through Patreon. It is 18 plus because I don't want teenagers on my Discord. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Not that teens watch me, but I don't want you on my Discord because you're kids and you should go live your kid life. But it is 18 plus. It's a third space. Think of it like a coffee shop where we all come in to discuss. So please be appropriate. No trauma dumping, no inappropriate posting, no homophobia, Islamophobia, racism, all the bad stuff, none of the bad stuff. Okay. Think of it like your local coffee shop where you come and hang out, especially as we head over to winter and you might be unable to get to physical spaces. We have events every Sunday. Come join us. You know, it'll be great. Okay, fingers crossed. I'll see you tomorrow. Either way, if my collaboration falls through, it's okay. I have a lot of content to go over with you guys. And with that said, wish me luck. I'm gonna go finish editing my pod. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Let me get you a link for the podcast channel in case you guys are new, especially. You guys, this podcast is gonna be great. When you're gay but not queer. Ooh, Leo Skeppy, Jeffree Star, I'm coming for you. I'm coming to deconstruct your beliefs. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. Bye. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.